This podcast is brought to you on Roku and Fire TV by Pod Nation Podcast TV. Find us on X, Facebook, Instagram, or wherever podcasts are broadcast. Download our app and never miss a show with video on demand as well as exclusive content found only on Pod Nation TV. Live from London, England, it's the Monster Island Film Vault, episode 105, Gorgo versus Bex versus Encyclo. Hello, Kaiju Lovers, and welcome to the Monster Island Film Vault, a podcast seeking entertainment and enlightenment through tokusatsu. I am your host, the still traveling film curator from Monster Island, Nate Marchand. And yes, making his, I believe, main episode re-debut? Is that how we want to put it? Yes, Jimmy from NASA. We all miss Jimmy so much. You know, I don't miss your lip. That's one thing, yeah, I could have done without that. I'm just saying, as proteges go, Jet was kind of great. Okay, fine. Jeez, you're just so sensitive today, okay? I thought you were a happily married man now. Jeez. All right, dude, just calm the heck down over there, okay? I know we had some issues. I thought we resolved them. All right, we're not getting into this on the air. All right, because, you know, we have two really great guests on today. All right, I want to have a good time, all right? Yeah, we believe in positive content around here. Okay, all right. I'm rambling. I get it. Thank you for, keeping me in line. All right, but for today's episode, joining me today, I have not one but two guests. You know them, you love them. The magical girl host of Redeemed Otaku and her supposedly all-knowing husbando / co-host, Bex and Encyclo.
Well, hello.
Yo. Welcome to Uber Mogura. I think this is the first time that you have checked out this very, now ramshackle robot.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting time getting here.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sorry that the mobile studio is a little claustrophobic.
That's all right. I'm actually kind of used to it, but it's all right.
Yeah, but like I said, welcome to Uber Mogura. I know it looks worse for wear, but we've had a wild time with the world tour, wrangling escaped kaiju and all that fun stuff. And Jimmy, you seriously need to fix this thing when we get back, and when we actually get back for realsies and not just for your wedding. But how did you two get here to jolly old England?
Jimmy. Yeah, he knows.
Oh, he does. He's usually the one in charge of arranging for the guests.
So I don't know. It's been a couple weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. I don't remember. It's been a while. We were talking, you and I, Bex. We were talking. It was when we did the shark thing. Remember the shark thing?
Oh yes, the shark thing.
Shark show, the shark movie.
The shark movie. Yeah,
it was a shark kaiju, maybe, sort of. We're not sure, but he was a thing.
He was definitely a strange beast. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay. So it was around that time you'd said, hey, you want to, maybe we're thinking about, talking, doing this, whatever. And so I was like, sure. And Bex is like, sure, we'll do that. So a couple weeks ago, I get a letter in the mail. It's a card. And inside it says, well, eat at Jimmy's on Jimmy. And I'm like, what is this? And it was a thank you. Like, thank you for, agreeing to be on the show. I'm like, okay. So I figured, what in the world is Jimmy's? The only Jimmy's I've got around me is Jimmy John's, right? Okay. Great subs. I love Jimmy John's. And I had a $5.99 sub on my Jimmy John's app. And I'm like, well, I'll go try this gift card at Jimmy John's. It says Jimmy's on it. So I went, bought the Jimmy John's. And we
went.
We did.
I was gonna say, the husbando forgot his waifu. I'm just saying.
Right.
And by the way, I can say that because both of them are each other's biggest fans. I'm just saying.
Yes.
100%.
I laugh at his jokes.
And she laughs harder at hers.
Oh, wrong, Jimmy, what the heck? Oh, wrong button. Seriously. Okay, good thing I have access to that too. I'm just saying. All right, anyway, continue.
We get our Jimmy Johns. I elect to get, they just brought back their Kick and Ranch, which is amazing. I elect to get the Italian nightclub, which is what I always get.
The Italian nightclub.
With the pepper. Oh, it's so good. With the peppers.
The Jimmy peppers.
Jimmy peppers are spicy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Jimmy's spicy too. I'm just saying.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, at least that's what his wife would have you believe. I'm just
Wow.
Hey, they just got back from their honeymoon. Okay, they went to the sea. They went to the Sea of Tranquility. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. I heard there's a thing to see there, a lander maybe. Anyways, we get the sub. I get
officially got that PG rating.
Right. I get the Kick and Ranch with the Jimmy Peps and the Italian nightclub, and it's delicious. I think it's going to be delicious. It's going to be spicy. So I take the first bite, and next thing I know, the ambience around me, and I close my eyes when I take a bite. The ambience around me completely changes. It's like no longer at a small sub shop. I'm smelling Indian food. I'm smelling Mexican food. I'm hearing voices, accents, British accents. I open my eyes and I'm at Jimmy's at the O2 on the on the Thames. It's right on the Thames River. I can't believe it. An all-you-can-eat buffet with a so-called American food, although it didn't look very American. So-called Mexican food, although that was questionable as well. A lot of Indian food, which did look somewhat authentic, and some Chinese food that I'm not sure that any Cantonese grandma would have called Chinese. And the pizzas didn't look so hot either. I'm not sure I agreed with the Italians. But the Indian food looked really good, and it was all I could eat. And that's how I got there.
Did Bex get brought along for this, or was it only you who got the magical food teleportation?
It was the combo of the Jimmy Peppers and the Kick and Ranch. And
so here I am,
the Jimmy card.
Here I am eating my number 6 veggie.
And I think I did. With something bland.
I did get the Jimmy Peppers, but I did not get the Kick and Ranch.
It was bland.
So there he goes. Evaporates before my eyes.
I didn't know it was evaporating.
I had no idea what's going on. And within a few seconds, he's texting me, thankful that the cell phones still work. He's texting me. He's like, I'm in London. I'm at Jimmy's Buffet 02, whatever. And you need to get the Italian nightclub and Jimmy Peppers and Kick and Ranch. So I did.
Thankfully, we still had money on the Jimmy card.
Yeah. So I did. I take a bite, nothing. I take a second bite, nothing. I eat the entire sandwich, nothing. So
was it good?
It was delicious. It was delicious, yeah. So
something.
Thankfully, we live not too far from O'Hare. I got myself a plane ticket, flew to Heathrow, had to get public transit to this Jimmy's O2 buffet or whatever it's called.
O2 is the big stadium. It's the third largest stadium in Great Britain. It's not like you couldn't tell from the dome.
I was hoping I could ride a double-decker bus, but it was raining like it does in London, so I didn't even get to experience that. The only trip that I was able to...
It's a block away from the tube. Why didn't you take the tube?
So the only trip I was on was multiple trips to the lavatory on the plane due to the Kick and
lavatory. You've been in London, what, a whopping couple of hours, and you're already talking like a Brit. Lavatory.
Yes, so I finally caught
you in that case.
I finally caught up to Encyclo, and Jimmy, I just gotta say, you got to work on your wormhole skills or whatever it was, because it worked for Encyclo, but it didn't work for me, and I had to come the long way. So here we are, finally here.
It's almost.
And I didn't get to enjoy any of that buffet.
It sounds like borderline.
It's not sitting well with me.
It sounds like borderline isekaiing. I'm just saying.
Something happened. Yeah.
Borderline something.
Borderline something. You might want to warn Jimmy Johns about potential like mixing of ingredients along with like rare natural phenomenon causing potentially causing bizarre teleportation shenanigans. I mean, yeah, it sounds like you need a pile of requisites to actually happen. It might be Encyclo's unique genetic structure. We don't know, but like
maybe.
I'm just going to say I used to be in a band called Pile of Requisites.
Yeah. Weren't they the favorite band of some bizarre supervillain called the Sequitur?
The Sequitur.
Yeah, okay. I'm totally kidding.
Pile of requisites.
Yeah, I'm totally kidding. Kaiju lovers. We drove Jimmy crazy, and we didn't. We sat here for who knows how long, just chit chatting before actually doing the broadcast. And he's like, "Marchand, we only have so much time, okay? This needs to go out to the island. The board will yell at us. The only reason that they're not yelling at me now is because of time zones, all right?"
Well, and apparently time-space manipulation.
Right.
Yeah. At least it's not actual time travel. Jimmy hates time travel because it mucks everything up. I think it might be part of his PTSD because, one theory that I have for how he might have survived the infamous war in space has to do with warps in space-time because I don't know how else it would work, Okay, Jimmy, I don't need a lecture, all right, about how all of this works. Who do you think you are, Neil deGrasse Tyson? I taught him everything he knows. I doubt that, my friend. I doubt that. Anyway, I'm glad that you're both here. You have full stomachs. That's even better. Maybe we'll go get dinner or something, after we're done here, here in we'll get some more local flavor because why not?
More local flavor.
Yeah.
More local than Jimmy's at the O2.
Yeah, I guess so. Unless, I don't know, I get another unexpected visitor like I did the last time I covered a British kaiju movie and somebody from the island just had to show up. That weirdo and his mushrooms. Just...
Mario?
No, Dr. Dorff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mario.
Yeah, Mario. Yeah. Mario gets high on mushrooms too, I'm sure. Yeah. It's a different kind of magic mushroom with him.
He jumps higher with the mushroom.
Yeah, yes, he does. Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're all here, and Encyclo being here is just a wonderful bonus. Because originally...
It's the first time in my life I've been reckoned as a wonderful bonus.
Well, it's because originally I only had Bex slated for this episode, and then I'm like, you know what? Screw it. They're a package deal. So they're both coming now. Especially since now you've been showing up more on Redeemed Otaku, and I'm like, all right, you know what? They're both coming. They're a dynamic duo again now on podcasts. Yes. So yeah, we got to do it.
Well, but I'm not on death's door anymore on life support.
Well, that helps. So that's a big help.
He's just a gimp right now. So
a gimp. Wow.
Jimmy, next time you do some sort of teleportation thing, maybe like tweak it a little bit so broken bones can be mended.
Right, there you go.
Sure, dude. Sure.
Wow.
Get right on that. All right. But I wanted to have you on here. I'm going to confess, Bex, there was really only one reason I wanted you on here. Although in retrospect, I realized actually this fits within like your shtick on the show anyway.
It does.
But originally, I only wanted you on here to pay off a joke that's been like 3.5 seasons in the making.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to season 1, episode 18, Rebirth of Mothra 2, because in the dub of that, and I think the subtitles we were using still did this, even though when you listen to the actors, they're not saying it this way, because that weird not Furby abomination in that movie was named Gorgo in the dub, and I think the subtitles did the same thing, but in Japanese, his name is Gorgo, but because of the L and R thing in Japanese, it came out Gorgo with the dub. And I said on that episode, I was like, oh, that's the name of another kaiju. And you're like, oh, it is? Like, yeah, it is. And then we kind of moved on with our lives. And then I'm like...
And you had to remind me of that because I was like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember what you were talking about. So you had to remind me of that.
Yeah, so. So just remember that. When next time you hear Gorgo, you're either going to think big... Well, it's not even the big angry mama. You're going to think like... little baby kaiju with fins on his ears, right. Or not Furby abomination.
I'd rather be reminded of the little baby reptilian-like creature than the non-Furby abomination,
which has magic urine and pees on people.
Yes, that's right.
His urine can cure wounds.
Wow.
It's like his bladder is the holy grail.
How do you cure jellyfish sting?
Oh, no.
In real life.
Do not do that, people. Please do not pee on each other.
It works.
I think, if I remember correctly, I think we did the same thing when we were on that episode.
So too.
But
also,
that was what?
There is a creature that is not considered a kaiju that does have magical pee that smells exactly like buttered popcorn.
I kind of, yeah.
What is
I want one.
It is the bear cat.
Yep. He's very cute.
The bear cat can be force-fed coffee beans, which will then be pooped out to make amazing coffee.
So
I don't know if I could
it's
try
also
that.
it's a cat. No, wait. So it's a pet.
It's
Let me correction. It is a pet and a coffee maker?
Kind of, yes. What is it called? Kopi Lumpur or something like that? It's the most expensive coffee in the world, and it's coffee beans that are force-fed to civets. And then they poop them out, and then they... Yeah.
Then they roast the bean or whatever.
Encyclo, slow down.
I guarantee Jimmy knows about this.
Oh, I'm sure he does, but
he probably drinks it on the daily. That's probably where a large part of your guys' coffee budget has gone.
What? You're freaking kidding. Oh, good Lord.
Wow.
I was just trying to say I needed a second for my brain to reconstitute after exploding from this information. I need like 5 minutes, but right now. All right. Okay. We're going to be good. We're going to be good. That was also, just to bring it up, that was also during a very strange time in your life when you were being enticed by the Church of Mothrianity, which then turned out to be real.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just a thing that Belvira used to mesmerize you. Apparently, it's a real thing and frequently gives my pseudo-sister all kinds of trouble.
Yeah. What a strange time that was.
Yeah, that was a strange time. And then you came back and suddenly I had a pseudo-sister.
Yeah.
And she won't leave me alone.
Yeah, and if any of your listeners have not listened to those past episodes, do so because they were life-changing.
Yeah, that was something. I'm sorry, Tim, that you had to put up with that.
I mean, I was on dialysis at the time. So other things.
See, this is what happens. Like, you go on dialysis, your wife joins a cult.
That is a very normal thing in the world of Mothrianity.
Wow.
I mean, dialysis.
Really? Now they just send Monsters of the Week to the island to bug my pseudo sister.
Bug, get it? Bug.
We're moving on because she hates me, and she's probably listening to this, contemplating more ways to murder me, which she probably details to you every night. I
will not say a word. My lips are sealed.
Yeah, I'm sure she blows your phone up every day.
I was waiting for her to come and pick me up or something, but nope, I had to just buy a ticket and make my own way to
do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Once again with O'Hare.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, we're talking about 1961's Gorgo. Future Nate here to remind you all that we are discussing Gorgo in this episode because
every country has a monster they're afraid of in their nation.
Every monster has a country, yeah, a station they call their home.
Had to play that because I forgot to play it live during the show. Oops. And now, back to the episode. Gorgo. I didn't fully realize this, but I do think I can say with certainty that this is the most iconic British kaiju movie.
I kind of have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Now, is it the best? I would say it's certainly in the running, but it's definitely the most iconic.
Like, how many British kaiju movies are there?
I've covered most of them this season.
That doesn't really answer.
Yeah, I think just on this show this season, I have covered Konga, which is basically a sleazy King Kong knockoff.
Couldn't figure that out from the name.
Although it has Michael Gough, who famously played Alfred in the Batman movies.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a mad scientist in that, who creates Konga. He's so wonderfully evil in that. Yeah, he's a horrible.
What
horrible
if he
character.
continued his career and as a mad scientist created the Batman?
Oh no. Anyway, and then I did a solo bonus episode on the giant behemoth, which I know sounds like a redundant title, but they were making biblical allusions in that movie. So it's supposed to be like it's the behemoth from Job. Like, okay.
Got it.
It's still slightly redundant, but it's less redundant when you take that into consideration. Same director as this movie, I might add.
Oh, okay.
So then we have Gorgo, and then I'll tell you about the next one at the end of the episode. So stay tuned, Kaiju Lovers. So,
right.
like I said, arguably the most iconic, and it has been seeing a resurgence, I guess you could say, of popularity and interest for a couple of reasons. One is Titanic Creations made a couple of articulated action figures of, well, it's technically Ogre, but they did include a smaller figure that's properly Gorgo, but they branded it Gorgo because you got to go with the actual branding.
The movie, right.
And it's a really good looking figure. I didn't get in on it at the time.
Better than the costume?
Opinions. There are opinions. But the other big reason why, and I'm going to show it off here.
Reason.
But the other big reason, and I'm going to show it off here a little bit because I did grab a few things out of the vault over on the island. Hopefully the board doesn't realize it. But this has been released on Blu-ray twice now. First time was in 2013 from VCI, and I have this one here. And I thought this was originally what I was going to use, for research purposes and all that. No. Then Vinegar Syndrome said, hold my beer, VCI. And they put out a 4K of this thing. Yeah. Gave it the star treatment. I mean, look at this.
Wow.
It's got the hard shell box, and then there's another slipcover that comes off, and it's got original artwork, and part of the artwork is little Gorgo is sleeping underwater, and then, here's the 4K itself, and this thing ported over most of the special features and then put in some new ones, and they made it look even prettier. Vinegar Syndrome mostly works with old school exploitation and schlock movies, but occasionally they grab some actual gems like this and then give it the star treatment. Like, this looks even better here than it does on the VCI. And VCI already did some remastering on it, and then they're like, yeah, we'll do some even more. So that's the weird thing. Vinegar Syndrome, for what I understand, is incredibly good at film restoration. They just like finding exploitation and schlock movies to do it for.
So I'm just going to say, if I saw that 4K release, like the cover, the art, I'd be like, this movie, I have to watch this movie.
Yeah, right. And the cover art is by Matt Frank.
I mean, it's just that looks beautiful. That looks beautiful.
Well, like I said, the cover is by Matt Frank, who's famously did Godzilla comic books.
But then you would watch. But then when you watch the movie,
Or are you saying it oversells
It's a
it?
huge letdown.
Oh, no.
Just saying.
oh, the opinions are already coming out. Oh, this is going to be the episode of Hot Takes, I think.
Hot
I
takes.
guess.
Hot Takes. All right, but before we get to the hot takes, first we got to do I should mention our Toku topic before I get to the actual next segment. But because this movie takes place partly not in England, but in Ireland, I'm going to be talking about Anglo-Irish relations. You do get a bit of a taste of it here because, our British protagonists are kind of like, oh, these Irish people are kind of weird. Also, there is an Irish Kenny. An Irish Kenny named Sean.
Named Shawnee.
Shawnee. Fun fact, that little actor, let me find his name here really quick in my notes, but that little actor is not Irish. He's actually Scottish.
Yeah, he had a Scottish accent. He had a brogue.
Yeah.
Vincent Winter was Sean.
Yes, Vincent Winter. He's actually Scottish. I know all about dealing with supposedly Scottish people.
Okay.
I had a nemesis who is actually half Scottish. But
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right.
I'm a little afraid he might show up because we're talking about this movie. But
And I think he gets even more Scottish the more he drinks.
yes. Normally, he sounds like a posh British man, but then the drunker he gets, the more Scottish he becomes. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, so that's what we'll be talking about here. And in the meantime, due to contractual obligations, and now Jimmy's back to actually write these things. I did perfectly fine without you. Wow, more hot takes. Okay, before this degenerates into a full-fledged argument, let's get to the entertaining info dump to get everybody on the same page with this film. Ogra is a protective and determined giant dinosaur-like lizard who emerges from the sea off the shores of Nara Island and rampages through London to rescue her kidnapped offspring. It could be inferred that she is only aggressive when attacked and only caused destruction because buildings were in her way. The rowdy yet timid Gorgo is the said offspring. He is attacked by treasure hunters and fishermen and comes ashore on Nara in retaliation before he is later captured and shipped to the Dorkin Circus for display. His skin secretes phosphorus, which is washed into the sea and ground with water, leaving a trail for his mother to follow. Once in the circus, he wants to escape and return to his mother. Joe Ryan is the intrepid and pragmatic captain of the ship crew who discover Gorgo while salvaging for treasure off of Nara Island. He and his crew later capture the creature and sell him to Dorkin to make a profit. But when Ogre rampages through London, he strives to keep Sean safe, having become a bit of a surrogate father for the kid. His bold yet guilt-ridden first officer, Sam Slade, at first goes along with profiting off of Gorgo, but later regrets it and, in a drunken state, tries to free the creature. He later helps Joe search for Sean during Gorgo's attack, hoping to keep the boy safe. Sean is a precocious and empathetic orphan who initially assists McCartan and later warns against capturing and/or harming Gorgo, speaking of the local legends of, quote, Ogra the Sea Spirit, end quote. He tries to free Gorgo on the ship while in transit to London and is enraptured by the creature's mother when she comes. The distrustful and surly Kevin McCartan is Nara Island's harbor master and an archaeologist who collects Viking artifacts, among other things. He doesn't take kindly to Joe and Sam snooping around for treasure, because he wants it all for himself. The greedy but charismatic Andrew Dorkin is the circus owner who buys Gorgo and puts him on display to make money, depriving Professors Leroy Hendricks and Marius Flaherty of a chance to examine the creature. While the human plotline is initially separate from the kaiju plotline, they quickly become unified once the divers encounter Gorgo. From there, the characters' actions and motivations are directly tied to the monsters. While Gorgo initially troubles the characters, it is ultimately his mother, Ogra, who is the problem. Nara Islanders bombard Gorgo with harpoons and torches, successfully driving him back to the sea. They later capture him with fishing nets. Ogra later demolishes Nara Island and is intercepted by a Royal Navy destroyer, which attacks her with cannons, but she proves immune to the weapons and sinks the ship. Other Royal Navy ships attack Gorgo with cannons and depth charges, but they have no effect. Submarines deploy nets to capture her, but she breaks through them. She's then attacked by the subs with torpedoes, but she withstands the assault. When she comes ashore in London, Her Majesty's Coast Guard leaks gasoline from a tanker ship into the bay and lights it on fire with a flare gun, but Ogra passes through the flames. Power lines are electrified to stop Ogra from entering the circus, but she plows through them. Troops with machine guns and flare guns as well as tanks engage Ogra, but she defeats all of them. Royal Air Force fighter jets attack Ogra with missiles, which also fail to harm her. Arguably, the problem is solved by no one. Ogra simply frees Gorgo, and they return to the ocean, presumably where they will cause no further damage so long as they're left alone. The script by Robert O. Richards, credited as John Loring, and Daniel Lewis James, credited as Daniel Hyatt, with a story by director Eugene Lourie and James, is a simple and straightforward monster-on-the-loose thriller with a handful of stock characters and no real subplots. The special effects created by Tom Hauer were created on a budget of $650,000 and utilized a variety of techniques commonly seen in Japanese kaiju productions, including supmation, miniatures, blue screens, matte shots, and a split-screen method called automotion. The Gorgo/Ogre suits are detailed and expressive, with its mouth, eyes, and ears being controlled by hydraulics in the suit. Differently scaled miniature sets were used to denote each creature's sizes since the same suits are used for both. The matte shots don't fare as well. Splice lines are often visible, but they show tremendous ambition. Fog and darkness are used to obscure imperfections in the effects, but they create a moody atmosphere. The location filmmaking for Nara Island and elsewhere adds some production value. Overall, this film easily rivals Toho's contemporaneous work at the time. Gorgo is somewhat inconsistent with its tone, ranging from relatively light to terrifyingly dark. The latter is especially true during Ogra's Rampage, which portrays often horrifying deaths for men, women, and children. By extension, the gravitas ranges from moderate to high. While there is talk of sea spirits, this film trends toward fantastical science fiction. While monster movies with mates or offspring have been done before, a mother monster seeking to save her innocent child and winning was a fresh idea. In fact, Lourie used this concept to successfully pitch the film to King Brothers. While Gorgo was clearly inspired by Godzilla 1954 and borrows elements from other films, it is an expansion of style thanks to the mother-child dynamic of the creatures and the fact that they survived the movie. Not only that, it may have created the quote-unquote Kenny archetype/trope, which became synonymous with the Showa Gamera series. This would be copied by numerous kaiju films that followed. After the King Brothers' success with the stateside release of Toho's Rodan in 1957, they wanted Eugene Lourie, who made the successful The Giant Behemoth in 1957, to make their own kaiju film. For Lourie, he wanted to make a film that atoned for upsetting his then 6-year-old daughter when the Rhedosaurus died in The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms in 1953. This film was made for a child audience, but it ironically received an X certificate in Britain, labeling it, quote-unquote, unsuitable for children, because it was believed its noisiness would frighten kids. While the film's release was delayed thanks to investigations into King Brothers Productions, it premiered in Japan December 24, 1960, or January 10, 1961. It then released in the US February 10, 1961, where it earned $1.55 million in rentals against a $650,000 budget. It opened in several other countries before it opened in the UK October 27, 1961. Critics were mixed to positive on it at the time, and this has remained consistent to this day. However, it remained a favorite with kaiju fans. It went on to be one of the most iconic and influential kaiju films of the decade. Supposedly, Lourie created an abridged 35-minute cut in the early 1980s that edited out all of the military stock footage and destruction scenes, but this has never been exhibited. Multiple forces are at play. Britain's tumultuous history with Ireland is seen with some of the characters' interactions and news reports pertaining to the British government disallowing the Irish government from claiming Gorgo. Joe and Sam's desire for profit clashes with McCartan's ideals for archaeological preservation, although McCartan is called out as a bit of a hypocrite for acquiring artifacts by legally dubious means. Joe is perfectly fine with capturing and selling Gorgo, while Sam later feels guilty, going so far as to try to free the monster in a drunken stupor. Dorkin's exploitation at the circus limits the Irish scientists from studying Gorgo, which could revolutionize paleontology. Sean isn't taken seriously by the adults despite seemingly having a connection of some kind to Gorgo. This is seen most clearly when he tries to free Gorgo on the ship and is stopped by Joe and Sam. Ogra's maternal fury defeats the UK's military might, serving as a metaphor for nature clashing with humanity. Several themes are present in the film. Greed, hypocrisy, and exploitation are shown to be vices, although not every character guilty of them gets any comeuppance. It's implicitly shown that adults should take children more seriously and should not anger spiritual forces. Actions are shown to have often dire consequences, with Ogra's rampages in Nara Island and London. A mother's love is shown to be a powerful and righteous force. Ultimately, Ogra's triumphant rescue of her offspring humbles the humans and shows them they are not the quote-unquote lords of creation they think they are. With my contractual obligations fulfilled, let's dive deep into the UK's most iconic kaiju film. Okay, so do we just want to get right into the hot takes here? Because now I have to know.
I like we already got the party started.
Because if I understand correctly, this is the first time seeing this movie for both of you.
Yes.
The cornucopia of hot takes has opened.
Yes. First time watching this movie. First time even, well, I shouldn't say first time hearing about it, because you did mention it in that episode of Rebirth of Mothra.
Rebirth of Mothra. Yeah.
But when you asked about, hey, I want you to come on and review this movie, that was kind of like, this movie exists. Yeah. But I think Encyclo was looking up Gorgo. I think he Googled Gorgo and it came up with a different movie. What was it, Encyclo, that you Googled and found? It's like, is this the one? This doesn't sound like something that Nate would be reviewing. Do you remember what it was? Oh, it was like an Egyptian goddess. It was about an Egyptian goddess or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, no. I said, I didn't look anything up. I said Gorgo is the wife of Queen Leonidas.
Yes, I was going to bring that. I was going to bring that up.
And
because
then I said it doesn't sound like anything he would be reviewing.
Well, 300,
Oh, okay.
300 or the 300
Okay.
Spartans, not necessarily. But I was going to bring that up because the movie, in the actual movie, the circus owner, Mr. Dorkin.
Yes.
Which is the greatest name ever, by the way.
Well, this was before the word dork had entered the vernacular. And so it's just kind of retroactively unfortunate.
But perhaps
Yeah.
this is the genesis of the word dork.
Maybe, I don't know. But
You're such a
he says-
dorkin.
Yeah, he says the monster's name is Gorgo, named after the
Gorgon,
Gorgons
right.
of Greek
Correct.
mythology, of whom Medusa was one. She is by far the most famous of them.
Right.
It was three sisters, but like the only one and most people talk about is Medusa.
Right.
And because he said that like this thing is so amazing, it will turn people to stone. And I think he means metaphorically, because they're just going to be so shocked by what they see.
Yeah.
And then there is also, I found out through my research, in paleontology, there is an actual Gorgosaurus.
Yep. Gorgosaurus.
Looks nothing like this, but apparently that was something that paleontologists were aware of at the time of the movie, might have factored into this, but they said like, yeah, the Gorgosaurus looks nothing like Gorgo.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, definitely in kaiju, early kaiju especially, but the whole idea of finding dinosaurs and the bones were getting bigger and bigger as they kept digging. It was like, what the heck are we finding here? We're finding land animals that are 100 feet long and 120 feet long. This is ridiculous, Yeah. So absolutely that factored into the creation of these monsters.
Right. But what I discovered, and I can't believe it, I think when I saw this, like, oh yeah, I do remember that now because I've seen 300. I know about this, but it slipped my mind. And this is a connection I've never seen anybody bring up. So congratulations for bringing it up here. It's a bit of an MIFV exclusive, I suppose. Gorgo is also the name of a Spartan queen, specifically the wife of King Leonidas, who famously led the Battle of Thermopylae. So if you've seen you've seen the movie 300, read the comics, that was by Frank Miller.
Sparta!
Yes, that guy.
Sorry.
You know.
Oh my goodness! I thought you were having like a seizure or something.
Well,
he was having an outburst. He was just having an outburst of masculinity there. Just like
that kicking ranch.
Yeah.
That kicking ranch is kicking in
Apparently.
again.
Yeah. What was in that?
Jimmy.
Anyway.
thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyway, so when I found that out, I'm like, that had to have factored in there. Now, obviously, Gorgo, this is a distinction that should be made, as was detailed in the entertaining info dump. Gorgo is you get two monsters in this. Gorgo is the child.
Mhm.
Ogra is Big Mama.
Is the true kaiju.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
Well,
like
they're both
this whole
kaiju.
movie, this entire movie is an illustration of hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, especially when she's a mother, because Gorgo just goes into mama bear mode. And she's
Yeah,
the
definitely
world's
mama
biggest
bear.
mama bear
Yeah.
and just tears up everything.
Yeah.
So when I looked up Gorgo, because I was like, well, how is it a queen? And then I knew of the relation to the Gorgon. Well, Gorgo is the singular of the word Gorgon. Gorgon is the plural. So a Gorgo, two Gorgon,
Mhm.
Okay.
or whatever that's worth.
Okay.
Yeah. But it initially carried the idea of like a deep one, a sea monster, or, like a dark, scary creature. But it became the idea became more of like a mermaid or a beautiful creature at some point, somewhere down the line.
Right.
So that's where Gorgo got her name, not because she was a terrible thing.
Yeah. Well, but what's interesting in this is that we have, I'm just going to say this now. This is also in the entertaining info dump, as everyone heard, but I'll reiterate it here. This movie does a lot of things first, and potentially, like, this thing's influence is everywhere. And this is why I say it's probably the most iconic of the British movies.
Gotcha.
Even the Japanese films took cues from it. I'm trying to remember, Nikatsu, one of the lesser of the Japanese movie studios, in 1967, accidentally, supposedly, I haven't gotten to this movie yet, it's on the list, accidentally remade this movie as Gappa the Triphibian Monster, and it's basically the same thing. Exactly the same thing.
I bet you
just
it's
different
better.
location. I don't know. Gappa has a reputation. You might want to walk that back. It has a reputation. Now, the one other than location change, the major difference is that it's not one parent, it's two. So it's mommy and daddy
Okay.
are not happy. Mommy and daddy ain't having this. So, so there's that, and then certain things have influenced it. I would argue that the Thai film The Lake is basically Gorgo. It's the same thing, except in this case it was an egg is found, and then the mother creature goes on a rampage trying to get her egg back. So we'll get Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2 is very similar, because that they have a baby Godzilla that is being pursued by both Godzilla and Rodan at that point, is used as bait to get him to come so they can kill him with Mechagodzilla. Like, there's a lot of,
The Lost
influence.
World, Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Jurassic Park. You got the rampaging Mama T-Rex trying to get her baby back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But this was a revolutionary idea at the time. And this is how Eugene Lourie, and this is the third time I have talked about this man. I have now covered, as of this episode, I've covered all of his actual kaiju movies. He only directed 4 movies. And the other one that I haven't covered yet is a monster movie, but it's not a kaiju movie. It's called The Colossus of New York. So I may have to just put that on the master list and cover it, just so I can get the entire Eugene Laurier.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the entire Eugene Laurier
Catalog.
filmography, catalog finished. But he did Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. He did the Giant Behemoth, and now this. Some of the materials I looked at said, like, he came full circle with this, because the Beast in 20,000 Fathoms was 1953. inspired the original Godzilla to a large extent. And then this was made in large part because of Godzilla.
True.
So it's just funny how that works out. This is also his only movie in color. All of his other movies were in black and white.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh, that is interesting, actually.
But here's the interesting thing. He made this to make it up to his daughter.
Yes, I read that. I thought that was very sweet.
Yeah. You want to tell us?
No, go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
I was going to say, I don't want to just blab. I don't want to just blab all the whole time. Yes, I know it's my job, but anyway. So he had Mr. Lourie had a 6-year-old daughter who saw Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. They saw it together at a matinee. And then when it was over and they were driving home, she cried the entire time. She was angry at her father because he said, "You're bad, Daddy, bad. You killed that nice beast." Now, weirdly enough, one of the sources I looked at said that attributed that story to the giant behemoth, which confused me a little bit, because that might have shown up in my giant behemoth episode. I may have to retract that.
Oh,
but
redacted.
So he decided that I have to make this up to her, and he decided to do that with this movie. So he pitched it to the King brothers, the studio. And the pitch was the monster wins, and then the angle came with making it a mother creature coming to get her child, which had never been done before. Like there had been monsters before, like Rodan, that had a mate, or it was like if you had insect creatures, there's talk about them reproducing. Them from 1954. There's a horde of these giant ants because they have a queen and they are reproducing and things like that. But never had you seen a singular mother and child creature, and the mother retrieving the offspring is the motivation.
Well, it made her a very sympathetic character.
The only sympathetic character.
Oh,
I disagree with that entirely.
Hot takes. Hot takes.
But yeah, it made her a very, very sympathetic. Like you were rooting for her. Get your kid back.
Yeah, despite the fact that despite the mass destruction and murder, but
right.
Let Gorgo go. Just let him go.
Well, and Ogra, we have Sean, the Scottish-Irish kid.
Scottish-Irish.
I mean, admittedly, the accents are freakishly similar. I'm just saying.
Oh wow!
There have been points where I can get them mixed up. I'm just saying.
I apologize to all the Scotchmen, Scotsmen, and the Irishmen out there listening to this episode.
Why?
The Irish accent is a little more sing-songy. That's the telltale.
Do you know why you can only have 239 beans in an Irish stew?
No, why?
Because if you add one more, it'll be 240.
And this will be Encyclo's final appearance on the Monster Island Film.
No, this is the whole reason why you had him on this episode.
I know.
He can deliver that joke.
I know. He's trying to make sure he doesn't become one with the sequitur. But anyway, so and the funny that's how he pitched it, and Eugene Lourie actually said what?
With the Irish stew?
Yes. He actually thinks that the King brothers went with this because he thought they had mother complexes. Apparently they were very close to their own mother. There was 3 of them. And they also had 2 sisters. Their dad died in 1950, so it was way before this movie. And apparently, depending on who you talk to, looking at my research, they said that the King brothers were criminals. They made their fortune through slot machines.
Wow.
And then got into movies because they met Cecil B. DeMille and they weren't impressed with him. The director of the 10 Commandments. And they're like, if this idiot can make movies, so can we. So they started making movies.
We can make a movie.
Wow.
Gorgo.
Yeah, Well, they
Yes.
did other movies. They mostly made crime and adventure movies. They made a Captain Sinbad. They made a movie about John Dillinger called Dillinger. You know, so and their studio was in business from the early 40s to the late 60s, and they decided to, in part, again, this is in the entertaining info dump. They decided one of the reasons they greenlit this is because they distributed Rodan in America, and it was very successful. So they're like, why don't we make our own? So when they got this pitch, and they're like, yeah, go with it. So, so it's an interesting kind of conglomeration of things that led to the creation of this movie. But there's some other interesting things. This is, because we're talking about Ogra. So it's Ogra, the sea spirit. And I will admit, there's only one scene. Well, I guess I guess it's not just this one, but this first scene when Ogra herself appears, they play with this. And it's kind of a Japanese way of doing things. And that is, there's a storm going on when Ogra appears, and it at least implies she might actually be the sea spirit. Because creation itself is reacting to her fury.
Well, there's no place in the film itself that actually calls her Ogra. The little boy mentions Ogra.
He mentions Ogra.
And then the next thing we see is Gorgo, which we think is the kaiju, until Ogra actually shows up, and then we're like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
He is just a baby.
Yeah.
But I read that it was later, and I'm actually very interested in this, but I read that it was later in the next few years that they covered Gorgo and Ogra in a series of comics.
Yes, Charlton Comics. They did.
Yeah.
They published comics for Gorgo for about 2 years. They also did that for Reptilicus and for Conga. Go listen to my episodes on both of those movies.
Oh, neat. I think they formalized her name as Ogra in the comics.
Yes, and interestingly, the Gorgo comic includes he didn't do it for every issue, but the majority of those issues were drawn by Spider-Man co-creator Steve Ditko.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And also, to make it even more complicated, all of Charlton's comics are in public domain, which means the Gorgo comic, the Conga comic, and the Reptilicus comic, which was renamed Reptosaurus because of rights issues and then ironically ended up in public domain anyway. Those are all, so like Kong, they kind of have one foot in public domain. It's nuts.
Well, if they're in public domain, there's got to be somebody who's gotten like an omnibus of them or something. No, understood. But there's got to be like an omnibus or something.
Oh, there is.
I got to find it.
The Gorgo actually had an omnibus kickstarted. I'm trying to remember. I think it was called Gorgo Lives. I'm going to look it up here in my notes really quick. And Titanic Creations, who made the action figure, they also produced comic books, and they produced a new comic book for Gorgo called Legacy of Gorgo.
When I was looking at the figure, that looks cool too.
Yeah, 23 issues from 61 to 65. First issue is an adaptation of the film, and then the rest of the issues were about Gorgo and his mother Ogra fighting other monsters and communists and, all kinds of things. And then Gorgo also had crossover appearances in the 24th and last issue of Conga. So there is a Gorgo versus Conga crossover. This one, so it's like the British version of King Kong versus Godzilla. I need this movie. Can we have this movie? Conga versus Gorgo. I would love this. And that was in 1966, and that issue was renamed Fantastic Giants, and then Gorgo also appeared in a issue 41 of a World War II comic that they were publishing called Fightin' 5. And then they did a 3-issue spin-off that was originally called Gorgo's Revenge, and then it became Return of Gorgo. And Ditko did a backup story in Web of Spider-Man Annual number 6 called Child Star in 1990 that homages Gorgo, but they had to change it to Gorga for legal reasons.
Nice.
So yeah, and Gorgo Legacy, that's what it's called. the Titanic Creations
Omnibus?
comic, and there is an omnibus. I think.
Okay.
I think it's called Gorgo Lives. I could be wrong about that. I don't see it on here, but I know it. The Gorgo comics have been reprinted multiple times. Yeah. Here's the other movies that it may have influenced. Yeah, so Gappa, and then there's also there was a Japanese superhero show called Spectre Man. It just said that it influenced that.
I watched Spectre Man.
You've seen Spectre Man?
I have seen Spectre Man.
Wow.
Yes, I've watched Spectre Man.
Okay, I'm guessing there was probably an episode that was a little bit similar. But here's the other one. I should have mentioned this. Another callback to one of your episodes, Bex.
Okay.
Gamera the Brave.
Oh, and that's probably why I am a little salty about this, because when I saw the boy was going to be involved with Gorgo when he stowawayed on the ship, I was like, oh, we're going to get a cool little story about the boy helping the monster, and there's going to be this neat connection, and I'm going to have Gamera the Brave all over. And no, I didn't get that. So.
There's that, but the more direct connection is when Gorgo is being transported through the streets of London on the trailer with the tarp over him.
Yep.
It says Gorgo on it. By the way, the King brothers were so cheap that they didn't want to pay people to be extras. So their solution was to just put that prop out and drive through the streets of London and just record it. And just record actual onlookers. Actual onlookers who were just like, what the heck is that? Because they just like, oh, people will come to see it because they won't know what it is.
But it was raining that day.
As it does in London.
If it does often.
Yeah. So that was just wild. That was just wild to me.
The King brothers also were the ones who, because the original vision of the film was a fairly non-violent kaiju film.
That was the other thing. Yeah, there's some interesting. Yeah, we'll get into the genesis. Yeah,
they insisted on violence, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, the King brothers, because initially Eugene Lourie really wanted to zero in on the mother-child aspect of the story, and he just wanted the monsters to confront confront people. Right. One of the things I appreciate about this is because actual Gorgo, the child. I like to think that the child's male for some odd reason, so it's mother and son. Call me crazy. That's my personal interpretation. I don't know how you guys took it.
Well, Gorgo is feminine
how I saw
in Greek. Gorgo is a feminine word in Greek.
Okay. But they were also just using the name. That doesn't necessarily mean the creature.
No, I agree. Yeah. I'm just
for some odd reason I like thinking that the child is male. Just I don't know. Maybe it's because I love my mother. So
I did think it was a mother-son thing, though.
Yeah. But anyway, because he's actually a lot smaller. I think he's only supposed to be. The estimates that I've seen is between about 55 and 65 feet tall. Because of that, his encounters with people are a lot more personal because he's smaller. Which so I appreciate that, and we get some really nice special effects sequences involving that, which we'll get into. So Lourie just wanted to zero in on that, but the King brothers are like, but people want to see military action and destruction in these movies, so put it in there. So he's like, okay, fine, whatever. Got to do what the studio wants. And what's weird is that most of the sources I looked at said that he felt like he was forced to do it, so he kind of did it begrudgingly. Supposedly in 1980, he made a really truncated cut of this movie that was only like 35 minutes long, but he never exhibited it. So it's like he just made it for himself. That takes all of that stuff out. Because you can kind of tell, because almost all of the military stuff is stock footage.
Yeah.
I think that those military sequences cut short some of the human interaction that could have been had.
Yeah, because Lourie said that originally it was quote unquote more poetic.
Yeah, and that's actually a good way to put it, because I found myself looking at my watch during those military that sequence,
which is saying something, because this is a short movie. It's only 78 minutes.
And you said that his little truncated version was 35 minutes long. And it's like, well, I felt like those military scenes were 35 minutes long. Like, and I kind of like military stuff.
I was going to say, you have a thing for military aircraft, and there's a lot of stock footage of British military aircraft.
Exactly. And I looked it up as well. I wanted to see because I'm not too familiar about that era of, especially in British planes, so I had to look up which planes were being shown, and I found an interesting website. It's called IMF, as in Frank, DB, but it actually catalogs the armaments that were used in this movie.
Neat.
So I thought that was really fascinating, and I made a comment to Encyclo during the movie when they were bringing out the trucks that had the rocket launchers on the back, and aiming these rockets. I was like, are there actually military vehicles that have rockets on the back of them like that? Like, I've never seen a military truck that has rockets on the back of it. And that was actually a made up armament.
That particular one was?
Okay.
Yep, that was a made up armament.
Now that I think about it, yeah, those were definitely special effects. That wasn't stock footage.
Yep. So those big yellow rockets on the back of a trunk is a made-up armament.
And I think there are some benefits that we get to that, to the military stuff in terms of the special effects, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So, but I saw another source where it sounded like Laurier, even though he did it begrudgingly, it seemed like later on he's like, actually, I kind of get it now. And because I will admit, it does showcase, even if it's not quote-unquote as poetic, it does showcase Ogra's determination.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she is like, I don't care. I'm getting my baby back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what I have to go through. Yes, I was waiting for that. I don't care what I have to go through to do it. And also in the much more Japanese tradition, she's magically immune to all these weapons. Like, nothing can stop her. But what's interesting is that neither of these monsters have any nuclear baggage. They are not mutations.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even reawakened animals like the Rhedosaurus from Beast in 20,000 Fathoms, who was frozen and then freed. They're pre-existing, quote-unquote, natural creatures that were disturbed by humans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a question about that. My take wasn't that it was the humans that necessarily were disturbing them, but it was the very abrupt and weird volcanic eruption that caused them some disturbance.
But that's still a natural occurrence.
That's when all the weird fish started showing up too.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which... Actually, that was one of several sequences in this movie where I'm like, Takashi Yamazaki saw this, didn't he? Because this is Godzilla -1. Which, if you two have not seen Godzilla -1 yet, you owe yourselves.
Oh, we owe it to ourselves.
You owe it to yourselves. I don't care if I have to dig up my Blu-ray and make you watch it. You need to see -1. I don't say that about a lot of kaiju movies. I tell people, you have to see it. I don't care if you don't like kaiju or not. You need to see this.
Why is your Blu-ray buried?
Metaphorically speaking, sir. Anyway,
okay.
But it's but the volcanic. I will admit,
in your backyard.
I'm glad that you. But anyway, I'm glad you brought up the volcanic eruption because it's a little inexplicable. Because why is there a volcano off of Ireland?
And I believe that was. So I think it was the vehicle to cause their breakdown on their ship. They needed a rationale for the ship to break down. And it was a rationale outside of human intervention. I don't think he originally wanted there to be that human interaction. So outside of human intervention, how are we going to get these creatures to wake up or come to the surface or whatever they did? And I think that's what it was. I think it was just this inexplicable force of nature causes them to awaken and causes the ship to break down, which causes them to have to go to the shore and see the harbor master. It drives.
Yeah. There's plot significance to it, but it's strange.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because last I checked, unless I'm really speaking in ignorance here, I don't think volcanoes off the coast of the British Isles are really a thing.
It's not a hot zone. However, when you're looking at the northern part of Great Britain and Ireland and north and east, if you go northeast enough from Great Britain and Ireland, you'll reach Iceland, which is an extremely hot volcanic zone. So there is some weird, maybe, I don't know, kind of, it could happen theoretically.
Well,
I don't know if he read that much into it.
Well, here's the thing. I think there's a simpler reason for why this is in the script, and no one's really brought this up. Not really, but I'm kind of extrapolating off of this. I think this is one of those Japanese connections. Because the first draft of this script, which was called Kuru Island, was supposed to take place in the South Pacific.
Yep.
And then the monsters get taken to Tokyo for a Tokyo Zoo because there were Japanese backers for this movie initially. No, but here's the thing. Nobody knows who the Japanese backers were. The prevailing theory is that it was Toho. Credit to Kevin Derendorf, author of the hilariously titled book Kaiju for Hipsters, and he does have an essay about Gorgo, so I guess Gorgo is a hipster kaiju movie.
Heck yeah.
But he theorizes that it was Toho because Toho had a manga published around this time that was called The Latest Godzilla, and this was created by a gentleman named Yoshiharu Hashimoto, and guess what it was about? A baby Godzilla interrupting a screening of King of the Monsters 56, which is very meta, before going on a bit of a rampage and being rescued by his parent. So he thinks it might have been Toho. To be honest, I would tend to agree with him, not necessarily because of that manga, but because it just makes the most sense out of all the rest of the studios, because at that point Toho was the only game in town when it came to kaiju movies.
Yeah.
So
I
think
kind of I can see what you're saying there with the volcano being a self-specific thing.
So that's why I'm saying, like if this
thing.
was originally in the South Pacific, it makes a lot of sense for there to be a volcanic eruption in the middle of the ocean.
Yep.
Because that's a hotbed.
Yeah.
You know, that's the actual ring of fire? It's
Ring
the
of
actual
fire, yep.
It's the actual
You got
ring
it.
of fire. So that makes sense. So I'm guessing that's a holdover from this draft of the script. And then they went through several more locations. Then they considered setting it in Australia, but then decided not to because I think the King brothers said, who cares if Australia gets destroyed? Well, thanks, guys. And they didn't think that there were any landmarks for the monsters to destroy. And I'm like, Opera House.
Was the Opera House built?
Sydney Opera House.
61?
Oh, man, I have to Google
don't know
this.
the answer to that.
I was going to say, because like Godzilla Final Wars has the Opera House get destroyed.
It's the only landmark I can think of shy of natural features, but Godzilla isn't going to get that far into the interior.
Yeah, well, we're talking about Gorgo here. Let me see.
Fair.
The Sydney Opera House. I'm trying to find it. When was this thing built? Come on, tell me when it was built. Wikipedia.
Come on, AI.
Okay, I can't hold it against them. It says it was formally opened by Queen Elizabeth II on October 20th, 1973. So, okay, so the Opera House wasn't
1973,
there.
yep.
1973. So, okay, I guess there's no landmarks to demolish
I
in
think,
Australia at the time.
that's kind of that was a problem for Australia. That's why they fixed it.
Yeah.
They could have had like just kangaroos, getting stepped on or something. I mean,
it would have made more sense for Laurier's original
Gorgo
vision.
being attacked by drop bears.
Drop bears. There we go. But anyway, then the one that they really, the other location they did seriously consider for a while was Paris. Because apparently the King brothers were fascinated by this image of Gorgo climbing the Eiffel Tower. And they were pretty committed to doing Paris. But then Laurier, who is Russian, but he grew up in France, so he's familiar with Paris. That's why he has a French name, Laurier. So he's very familiar with Paris. He loves Paris, but then he pointed out to him, guys, Paris is 100 miles inland.
Yeah, you have to walk to get there.
Yeah,
even for a
yeah,
giant
because
monster.
they said because they originally were going to have Ogra come through the Seine, the river that runs through Paris, or like have her go through the river, come up to the city, and do stuff. But he's like, yeah, it'd take her like a week to get there. So it's like, it's too far inland. You can't do it. It doesn't have any ports. It doesn't make sense. We can't do this. So then they settled on London. Now, some other Japanese connections, potential holdovers. So this takes place on Nara Island. There's a Nara region in Japan. Credit to Kevin Durandor for pointing this out. Now, that might have been a little bit accidental because Nara was inspired by the Aran, A-R-A-N. So it's an anagram, which are the Aran Islands, which are off the coast of Ireland. And I do think they filmed there, if I remember correctly. So those port scenes for Nara Island, they filmed those there on location.
Gotcha.
And not only that, but Ogra might be potentially related to Ogura, which is a location in Nara in Japan.
Yeah.
And it can also, be spelled as Ogra. So it's Ogura Hill. That's what it is. Also, here's another crazy Japanese connection. This movie actually premiered in Japan first.
Yeah.
Because of numerous delays with the production of the movie.
Yeah.
The King brothers being investigated by the BT? I can't remember. They were being investigated by something because I think
British Broadcasting Channel, the BBC.
No, it wasn't the BBC.
I'm just That's the only acronym I know.
I'm trying to look this up. We'll do it live. Where is it? About the release here, because they were being investigated, and that slowed down the release of the movie. I'm trying to remember the name of the organization. It was B. It was an acronym that started with B.
BET?
No. Oh, here it is. It was the BCCT because the King brothers failed to pay their lab bills, so it was delayed for 2 years, according to one of the documentaries I watched. Yeah, so it premiered in Japan first, so you could arguably say that it's a bit of a Japanese movie. Because in Japan, when it was released, it was titled Daikaiju Gorgo.
Daikaiju Gorgo. I can see that. I thought it was interesting. I was looking at all the release dates for all the different countries. I thought it was interesting how far down the list Great Britain actually was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So here it is. Yeah. So the Japanese backers pulled out. And yeah, it premiered in Japan December 24th, 1960, or January 10th, 1961. There's some disagreement over the actual release date. And then the American and British releases were several months after that. So yeah, it's kind of wild, all these Japanese connections. So it starts off it's an homage to Godzilla, and then, all this stuff comes in. Were those the ones that you knew of, Encyclo, or did you have others?
Yeah, it was Japan, US, Canada, West Germany, Portugal, Mexico, France, Finland, and then finally Great Britain.
The last to get their own movie.
The UK.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a list of other ones that came later.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was just, did you have, you said you knew about some Japanese connections. I was just saying, did you know of any more?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, no, it was the Rodan and the backers.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I was looking at my list of things.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So, yeah, it's an interesting little genesis for this movie. And like I said, it's incredibly iconic. It was even on MST3K.
Yeah.
Which was actually the first place I saw it. Was on Mystery Science Theater 3000. But
I think I would have enjoyed that.
Oh, it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. But the funny
I've seen Reptilicus on Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, that was the first of the rebooted show.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yes.
but here's the fight. So this was season 9. So this is the Sci-Fi Channel era, and things like the quote unquote unfortunately named Dorkin Circus, the radio reporter, the lack of female characters. Sorry, Bex, there are no women in this movie.
No, I mentioned that on the island. I was like, where are all the women? Where are all these dudes coming from? And is this like a men-only colony or something? What is going on?
There are, it is so weird. There are no women in this movie except as extras.
One woman, and she was the queen.
She was.
Yeah, the only female character in this is Ogra.
No, but I did notice that, and normally I don't make a big deal of it, but it was kind of odd that there were no.
It was really odd, actually.
Well, you want to hear something? Well, I'll get to that in a minute here after I finish this point, but I do need to talk about the novelization of this movie.
Okay.
Oh boy, this is a theme. I've two of the other movies I have covered in recent months had the same thing happen. But anyway, so it was on season 9 of Mystery Science Theater. But here's the funny thing: that episode only ever aired twice due to rights issues, and it was on the same day. It was July 18th, 1998, and then there were rights issues that got it pulled from circulation. Now, it did get released on DVD in 2013 by Shout Factory as part of the 25th anniversary Mystery Science Theater set. But the thing that's really noteworthy about it is it featured probably the most high-profile guest MST3K had up to that point for sure, because Leonard Maltin.
No way.
Appeared in it. Leonard Maltin, who was probably second only to Siskel and Ebert in terms of like world's most famous film critic.
Okay.
He was on there and actually said he liked Gorgo.
Nice.
So he came on and it basically introduced the movie because he was hanging out with the villains of MST3K. And he's like, oh yeah, I like Gorgo. It's basically British Godzilla. It starts going into it a little bit. I'm like, okay. So, so it's noteworthy for that. But we talked about the comic book. Charlton Comics also had a book division called Monarch Books. They also, because in one year, we had 3 kaiju movies come out of Europe. We had Reptilicus, Konga, and Gorgo all in the same year.
Oh, wow.
All of them had comics by Charlton, like I mentioned. All 3 of them also got novelizations from Monarch Books. And despite the fact that 2 different authors worked on these, the Gorgo novelization was written by somebody different. Dean Owen, under some pseudonyms, did Konga and Reptilicus. But the same thing happened with Gorgo that happened with those other 2. Gratuitous sex scenes that are not in the movie.
What? You mean
like
in the novelization? Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Man,
it's bonkers. It's bonkers. But here's the thing here's what's really baffling about this. The fact that this added to Gorgo is probably the most baffling out of all of them. Reptilicus, there are female characters that the author of the novelization just and they have romantic interest in the male characters. The guy who wrote the novelization just decided to just go all in with that.
Yeah.
And it's for what my friend Damon Noyes, who came on for Reptilicus, said he read the novelization as show prep and he's like, oh my gosh, what is this? He said it was pretty gross. And then Mr. Owen also wrote the novelization for Konga and did the same thing. But here's the thing. Konga's already kind of sleazy, but it's like very early 60s sort of sleazy. He just took it to its logical conclusion.
Yeah,
okay.
well, what you could write in the 60s was quite a bit different than what you could show on TV.
Well, yeah.
If that makes sense.
So, but then you get this Gorgo novelization, which was written by, let me see, get the author, Bruce Cassidy, under the pseudonym Carson Bingham.
What?
This gentleman, Dean Owen actually invented a whole female character to increase the number of gratuitous sex scenes
because there
in
were
Reptilicus.
no female characters.
Well, no, I'm talking about Reptilicus. He invented a whole other female character to increase the number of gratuitous sex scenes. Because, like, the two women who are already in the movie, that's not enough. No, we got to have more. This guy had to invent female characters whole cloth to get the gratuitous sex scenes in.
That's crazy.
I guess.
I'm kind of blown away by that.
Yes, 141-page paperback novelization. My friend Michael Hamilton has actually acquired a copy of this. I don't know if I'm not sure he's ever going to read it because it's a vintage copy and it is barely holding together because the thing is 60 years old. But he showed it he showed it to me, and I'm like, "Oh Lord, sir, that thing is barely holding togetger."
Wow.
But now that I know about this, I'm like, Michael, you might want to prepare yourself. I don't know what it was. It is so weird that Monarch Books felt the need to do this with all three of these movies.
Yeah, that would be an interesting, I guess, exploration into the psyche as to why they did that. You know, like
I will say, so in the 60s, you had a crackdown on comics where they had to follow the comic code, and there was quite a lot of regulations on the movie industry as well to pass the censors.
Yeah, the Hays Code.
But in Europe, most of free Europe and the United States, there was very much considered to be freedom of the press when it came to books. And that was sort of a creative outlet for people to get it all out. And if you read science fiction books from that, like, Silver Age in the 60s and whatnot, you'll find some very weird stuff. And I read a lot of that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That was my kind of, like, I didn't do comics, I didn't do movies, I did science fiction short stories and novels and stuff.
Yeah.
And I read the greats and I read the not so greats, and it's in a lot of that type of stuff. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, just
well,
reality.
and funny enough, related to that, Britain at this time, and this actually predates the MPAA in America. Well, now it's the MPA. They dropped one of the A's.
Oh,
the A that stands for America, by the way. Yeah.
Merca.
Yeah. But anyway, they had their own kind of movie rating system at this time, but they would just it was like certificates. Funny enough that you're talking about this, how the Gorgo novelization is so much more risque. This movie actually got hit with an X certificate, which was basically the equivalent of an R rating because it was deemed unsuitable for children, even though this was made for children. That was the intended audience. But the reason why they deemed it unsuitable for children is not what you might be thinking.
Okay.
You might think, is it because it's too violent? Because the destruction scenes are remarkably disturbing.
There were some disturbing moments in the destruction.
Yeah, which we'll get into. But
guy.
No. It's far weirder than that.
Really? Okay.
It's because it was deemed too loud and it would startle children.
Oh.
Okay.
It's too loud.
I would have never have guessed that.
I mean, I've seen cowboy films from the same time frame with shooting and, Native Americans making a lot of hooting and hollering noises. I'm just wondering why those weren't considered to be too loud.
Interesting.
Weird.
Yeah. It's the weirdest thing. And apparently it still said it was unsuitable for children when it was released in Australia. And was it Stephen R. Bissett, who has some special features and does a commentary on the movie for Vinegar Syndrome? He thinks that if that's the case, it was probably the same in New Zealand and Canada. So it's just like, what?
Huh.
So it put this movie in a weird place where it can't be shown to children, but adults might think it's too silly.
Right.
Yeah.
That is
But
weird.
despite that, it was still successful at the box office and became highly influential, as we've been pointing out. So it didn't really matter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's kind of wild. So we should probably actually, let me check my notes here, but we should probably actually get into the movie itself. I've got some things I can say about the actors and the...
I got some things I can say about the actors too.
Oh, well, and also the crew and all that. Some interesting things. I'll bring this up about the people who work behind the camera, and then we'll get into the actors and stuff. But the cinematographer who worked on this, Freddie Young, he also went on to work on Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Bex also didn't like Lawrence of Arabia.
What?
I have opinions, okay? I have my own opinions. I don't have to like everything that everybody else likes.
Yes,
it was one of the.
We know you don't like Trigun.
Yeah, it was one of the movies early on in our marriage that I was like, "Oh, you should watch this."
Yeah,
because I was just raised on old movies. We weren't allowed to watch anything current.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but anyway, and then
the she didn't care for.
Interesting fact, and I get into this more actually in my Giant Behemoth episode about Daniel Hyatt is how he's credited. His name is actually Daniel Lewis James. He was a blacklisted screenwriter because he used to work with Charlie Chaplin, and because of that, he got brought before the it was during the Red Scare, the un-American activities, whatchamacallit. And so he got blacklisted because he was viewed as having communist connections because of his association with Charlie Chaplin.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I get more into that in the Giant Behemoth episode because he collaborated with Eugene Lourie quite a bit. The other screenwriter on here, Robert L. Richards, was also blacklisted, and that's why he was credited as John Loring. I don't know what he exactly did to get blacklisted. I just know that they were all blacklisted because apparently the King brothers were known for working with quote-unquote blacklisted talent.
Huh.
They actually gave them work because they just didn't care. Also, apparently, they were borderline criminals.
It's actually pretty fascinating, though.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah, when I didn't know this until I actually was researching for the Giant Behemoth, and I'm like, what? He was blacklisted? And he had other controversies attached to him as well. But go listen to the episode if you want to hear more about that. The score, by the way, was composed by a gentleman named Angelo Francesco, actually. Lavagnino. And he scored 300 movies in 20 years. This was one of them.
Wow.
A lot of interesting things. But
I liked the music.
Yeah, the music is actually pretty
good.
good. Oh, and I should mention that the title card lettering, which is some pretty amazing lettering, I gotta say. That's some great graphic, like old school graphic design there. That was actually designed. I'm trying to find. It was mentioned in the commentary. Where are my notes from the commentary? Yeah. It was made by Joseph Smith, not the guy who founded the Mormons. No, not Mormons. Jehovah's Witnesses.
Latter-day Saints.
Yeah. Oh, it is? Oh, I get.
Yeah, it's
sorry,
Latter-day Saints.
I'm getting them mixed up. He did the logo art. He also did logo art for Ben-Hur and the American releases of Rodan and the Giant Behemoth.
Nice.
And when I knew that, I'm like,
cool.
I could see it the way it's designed. Especially, I can see that with Ben-Hur.
I can see that too.
Yeah, I can see it. But anyway, Bex, you have opinions about the cast?
I have opinions.
What are said opinions about the cast?
They're more just like silly comments. So, yeah. Well, one of the things we like to watch movies with the subtitles on. And this movie you can currently watch it on Tubi, which is a free streaming site. And it really struggled with their accents. So when they were talking to the Irishman to Dr. McCartan.
McCartan, yes.
Yep, Dr. McCartan.
The kind of crooked archaeologist and harbor master.
See, I'm not really 100% sure what he was or what he was doing there, but
he's
it
well, no,
he's a treasure hunter.
He's the harbor master. That's his official job, but he also dabbles in archaeology because he collects, among other things, Viking artifacts.
Yeah.
And he gets called out about it because he gets on our two heroes, Sam and Joe, because they're treasure hunters, which also might be another holdover from when this was set in Japan, because the Japanese version was going to involve pearls. It would have had pearl divers. Mm-hmm. So now they change it to they're treasure hunters. Again, it's one of those things that once you know that this was originally in Japan, it starts making a little more sense and still kind of odd in context. But he's like, oh, what are you doing here? You can't be here looking for these treasures. Like, dude, look at you. You got a whole room full of Viking artifacts.
Let's open up that safe and see what you got in there.
Yeah, let's see what you got in there. Sir, please remove the plank from thine eye before you talk about our specs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the subtitles were really struggling, and so it's kind of funny. We kind of laughed a couple times with the subtitles, but one of the ones, it was at the actual circus. Okay, so they're at the circus and they've got Gorgo on display. All these people are flooding in, and there's a lot going on because they're announcing Gorgo, and then there's the crowd. So the subtitles was kind of having a hard time keeping up with that. But there was the concession seller. So he's selling peanuts. Peanuts, get your peanuts, right?
No, I think I know where this is going.
The subtitles translated that to green ox.
Oh, not what I was expecting.
Me up. Oh, I know where you were going, but no, it was green ox. Get your green ox. And it just
wait, whoa. What was that, Jimmy?
Huh.
You've had green ox?
Wow. Well,
do I want to
green
know?
Ox and ham.
Yeah, there you go. Do I dare ask the obvious question? Chicken. All right, whatever.
But it just kind of cracked me.
Wait, it teleported you too? That might explain. Maybe there was some green ox in that got slipped into your
that was in my mystery meat.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's why.
It's Italian nightclub.
Yeah, that's why. Maybe that got snuck into the Italian nightclub, and that's how you ended up here. Anyway.
Oh man.
Green ox.
So that was funny. So if you kind of want a good laugh, and while you're watching the movie, check it out on Tubi because the subtitles are pretty hilarious.
I'm guessing they're auto-generated subtitles.
They must be.
Because there are official subtitles.
Yeah.
Quote unquote official subtitles on both of these Blu-rays, and I don't think they're going to have green ox. But I've seen that happen before when I did an episode on the Barbados Project, which is on Tubi. And the movie's in English, but since it's set in Barbados, the accents are so thick, it's hard. And some of the actors talk so fast, it's hard to understand what they're saying. So I turned them on, not realizing they were auto-generated. And there would be points where even the subtitles couldn't handle the accents. And they're like, it just says inaudible.
Inaudible.
That's great.
Yeah. But the Mr. McCartan was played by Christopher Rhodes, in case anyone wanted to know. And that we mentioned Vincent Winter. Vincent Winter actually had a bit of a career as an actor for a little bit. He appeared in some Disney movies as a child actor. He was in a couple of things before this. And he was, like I said, he was a child actor with Disney. I'm trying to remember what his most high-profile thing was. Let me look that up. Because most of the other titles that they mentioned, I did not recognize them. Even some of the Disney movies he was in, I didn't really recognize, but he was actually Scottish. To me, it's not a super popular Disney movie, but it's one I remember seeing as a kid compared to all the other ones they mentioned, like The Horse Without a Head. Like that was a Disney movie? What? Oh. But no, this is actually one I wouldn't be surprised if you had seen this, Bex. It's called The 3 Lives of Thomasina.
Oh yeah, I didn't see it, but I remember.
I didn't see it, but I'm.
It's about a cat.
You know, it's one that I'm familiar with in
Yeah.
that sense. I know it exists, but I've not seen it.
Yeah, it's a weird movie about a cat who keeps dying but not dying.
Aww.
That's why it's The 3 Lives of
I'm
Thomasina.
gonna go watch it now and cry.
Yeah, well, it has a happy ending because it's a Disney movie.
Yeah.
But he only did acting for a little while. He was primarily known for working behind the scenes on a lot of classic franchise movies, including James Bond and Superman.
Yep. And Indiana Jones and the Temple
Yep.
of Doom.
And Indiana Jones.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So he also was assistant director on Are You Being Served?
Yes.
Which is mine and Encyclo's, one of our favorite kind of old British comedies.
Oh
So,
yeah.
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 I thought that was really neat to find that.
But then
Mr.
unfortunately,
Humphrey, are you free?
yeah. But then unfortunately, if I remember correctly, he died in 1998, which seems weirdly soon.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like he's like 12 or something in this movie, and then I'm like, he died in 1998? What?
Yeah.
Just
It's
seems
too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad. But like as I've hinted at, mentioned, I should say earlier, Sean is potentially the original Kenny.
The original Kenny.
He is there because this is 1961, and most of it was, and this was in production in the late 50s and early 60s. So it predates children showing up in the Gamera movies, most notably.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to keep reminding me that you are a Kenny? All right, I get it. You and your best friend Masao helped Gamera save the world from the virus invasion. Whatever, the space squid. The less said about that space squid, the better, because we had weird experiences just before your wedding with him. Anyway, that was quite a time. Quite a time. Yeah. Anyway, we're not getting into that.
I don't think.
But so I think he was what?
I don't think they really laid into or leaned. I should say leaned into. Yeah.
They laid into that, boy.
Oh.
I think they could have leaned into that a little bit more. So it was. That was kind of supposed to be your connection with the monster, was through the little boy, and it didn't really pan out like I think it could have, with how the little. Go ahead.
I feel like that might have been due to the change of direction that the King brothers brought to it with the violence and stuff like that. Because a lot of the development that was trying to happen with the boy, with Sean, was happening at the same time that, mom's coming for Gorgo. So there was all that build to that, and then all the military action. And so I think we're distracted from some of that, what could have been an interesting development there, because I think there was a change to the tenor of the film.
Well, there's that, and Sean is written by people who I don't know fully understand how children talk. Like I said, he's the proto-Kenny. He really is the proto-Kenny. He has a connection to the monster. He seems to be smarter than the adults, and is telling the adults things that they don't know, and is insisting that the monster must be freed, and and it's and all of these things, and then he ends up being right. Now, does he save everybody or whatnot? No. After about the halfway point of the movie, he doesn't do a whole lot. Becomes a bit of a quote unquote damsel in distress at one point. But so he doesn't really do anything after the first half of the movie. The most interesting thing he does is he tries to free Gorgo on the boat in a scene that reminds me a lot of a scene in Godzilla vs. Kong from 2021. Except in that one, it was Kong and Gia. And in this one, he's like, I'm going to free Gorgo again so he can go back to the sea. And then the adults are like, what are you doing, kid? Stop it. He's like, no, send Gorgo back. Oh, whatever. And yeah, but then after that, he doesn't really do anything.
But he wasn't called Gorgo at that point.
Well, yeah, but whatever. Yeah, don't get technical on me. But he's trying to free the monster to go back to the sea because he's smarter than everybody else. He knows that you can't keep bringing him because it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Let him go.
Well, the kid first names the creature, and he names him Ogre. Or he just names Ogre, I should say.
Yeah.
In the picture at the beginning there. Ogre is actually an Irish word.
Is it?
Yeah, it means young boy.
Oh.
Mm.
Yep.
Interesting.
Youth.
Well,
it's a
they
masculine,
really need to switch these names.
So I actually think that it was meant to refer to the monster in general. It was actually meant to refer to the original monster. And then Mom was going to come and save Ogre. But somehow, because the Dorkin Circus named it Gorgo, that became its name to everybody.
Mm.
And then Ogre just became the mother or the species name. I'm not sure. But yeah.
Yeah. So like all the traits of a Kenny are there. And like I said, this did it first. This was before kids started showing up in Godzilla movies. And before notoriously Gamera, like I said, and then kids just started showing up in Tokusatsu everywhere. And I seem to have kind of popularized using the term Kenny for all obnoxious children in Tokusatsu at this point, because I have listeners who start calling all the kids, and I kind of do it as a joke, but like everybody is calling annoying kid characters in anything Tokusatsu Kennys now.
Kenny.
I just changed the branding. Like original Kenny is Gamera and kind of Godzilla, but not really. But then like if you're watching any of the TV shows, you have to modify it a little bit. Oh, you're watching Ultraman? It's an Ultra Kenny. Are you watching Power Rangers? Namely Turbo, looking at you, Justin. He's a Power Kenny.
Well, even in the Jurassic Park franchise, you have Kennys.
Yeah, except they actually make they actually make sense in Jurassic Park. At least the first one, they actually make sense.
Right.
We'll find out. But here's the thing. It's not every kid in everything. Going back to one of your other episodes, Bex, that has connections to this, Gamera the Brave. The kids are not Kennys in that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not annoying. Kenny. They're not doing things that are out of the ordinary for kids.
Right.
They're not smarter than the adults.
Things.
And,
they're doing kid things.
They're doing kid things. They make sense in that. Because that's really what it is. It's not just, is there a kid character in this? Oh, he must be a Kenny. No, there are certain other traits that you need.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to put this out here because I have occasionally seen this appear when I have talked about Kennys on the podcast social medias. I'm going to shut this down right now. No, absolutely no. Kenny is not a racist trope. Okay? It is not. There are people who've made the argument that it's a racist trope. It is not a racist trope. It's because they think your old people are only saying that, I guess, because they're Americans and they're making fun of Japanese children. Yes, I get it. They called you a Kenny and you're American, but that illustrates my point. It illustrates my point. It doesn't matter what the ethnicity of the child. If they are an annoying child character in any of the stuff, they are a Kenny.
Like Short Round?
I'm not. Well, it's been a hot minute since I've seen Temple of Doom. I don't.
You call him Mr. Jones.
You call him Dr. Jones, doll.
Yeah, Dr. Jones.
I need to watch it again to make an assessment.
I'm just saying. He's not American.
But I'm just saying.
He's definitely not doing normal kid things because he drove a taxi around. So
he's not.
What about the little Mexican kid from Herbie Goes Bananas? Is he a Kenny?
We're really broadening the definition. I have not seen that movie since I was a child, okay? I don't even
5 and 3 make 8. That's why he calls him Ocho the whole time.
I get it.
Ocho.
I guess I don't view him necessarily as a Kenny, but
Wow.
We'll do a bonus episode trying to understand the Kenny trope. We'll talk about it later.
I'll be happy to come on and throw out the most racist ones.
Well, I'm just saying it is not a racist trope. You have the original Kenny right here.
Right.
He's a Scottish
name
kid
is Sean.
pretending to be Irish. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's kind of racist.
It doesn't count because he's white. I'm sorry. It's just,
wow.
Don't you know? That's how it works. That's how racism works now. It's only racist if it's
Talk
not.
about hot takes.
I totally.
Right.
I'm making
We
a
now
joke. I'm making a joke. It doesn't matter. I'm totally kidding. It doesn't matter. If you're prejudiced towards somebody based on their ethnicity, it doesn't matter if they're white, black, purple, green. I don't care. It's racism. Doesn't matter.
What does Jimmy have to say about this
Yeah.
racism topic?
Doesn't want to talk about it. Okay, whatever.
Well, he's smart.
He might. Yeah, he might be the
Right.
smartest one in the mobile studio, right? Well, no,
He's the only
he's
one.
not. He's not in the mobile studio because that would be even more cramped. He still has his own little like producer booth looking thing. All right, so yeah, the proto Kenny right here. I don't mind Sean all that much, but like I said, after a while, he doesn't really do a whole lot. But they worked so hard. Like he's talking a bit more like an adult. He's an orphan. Oh my gosh, we got to really layer this on thick. Oh, he's such a poor orphan. Feel sorry for me. Did like Dr. McCartan adopt you or something, or do you just hang out with him?
Well, good thing that Sean went on the ship, because when Ogra
Yeah, that was lucky.
I
It
mean,
was lucky for him.
say
I
goodbye
don't think
to
there was
Mr.
anybody left
McCartan.
on the island. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
she
because
kind of-
Mr. McCartan doesn't survive.
He's an orphan. He's an orphan 2 times over.
Was he an orphan? Because
Yeah, they said he was an
yeah.
orphan.
He did
Okay.
say
His
he was an
parents are
orphan.
dead, and then
I
Mr.
got you. All I
McCartan took him
remember is
in,
him saying-
and now he's like, "Oh, I just do work for Mr. McCartan."
Yeah, I only remembered him saying he didn't have a dad. I didn't hear him say orphan.
No, he's an orphan, and he's like,
Got
I just do work for Mr. McCartan. So I'm like, so you're not even properly adopted. You're a glorified assistant, and you live in his house. Is he your dad or not, kid?
No.
Just make it make sense, child. Otherwise, that just seems like thinly veiled child labor. It's just,
I don't think it was that then.
Right.
it's weird. But then he gets orphaned again because Mr. McCartan, as far as we know, dies because Ogra is an angry mama bear.
Which that scene when Ogra came onto that island was actually one of my favorites, because you see Gorgo, before he's known as Gorgo, coming up on the island.
No, you're talking about the child. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm talking about the infant or baby, whatever.
Thing.
Because that's the connective tissue. Children and girls. That's why I bring you on this show. Is children and girls.
So
Wait, what?
yeah, when the baby, the child, comes up on the land, they have to drive it back, and it's pretty big. You kind of get a sense of the size. But when Ogra hits that island, you really get an idea of the scale, and I think they did a really fantastic job in that scene.
Yeah.
As she destroys everything on that island.
Yeah.
So I did like that a lot.
I'm going to save most of this for when we talk about the effects, but the effects often were in my sources, not by everyone, but were often praised, and I thought kind of prejudicially, if not ignorantly, were said to be superior to anything coming out of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what?
Well, this is how my brain works. Like, you have like your little everything laid out. Okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. Me, I'm just all over the place. So.
Well, that's kind of how we are here. Anyway, it's very conversational. Although I just like to point out, speaking, here's another non sequitur for you. Why are you wearing a hoodie for the competition?
I didn't know what was happening when Encyclo disappeared before my eyes, so it's not like I planned to be wearing my Jurassic Park hoodie. It just kind of happened, and all I knew is that I had to get to London fast, and so I did.
All right, anyway, moving on. All right, so that's Sean. Our main characters are Joe and Sam, who are played by, let's see, Bill Travers. is Joe, and William Sylvester is Sam.
Mhm.
And the most notable thing about either one of them, Bill Travers, if I remember correctly, was the most famous member of the cast at this time. Because almost everybody in there, it's like a bunch of recognizable British character actors who did stuff elsewhere that's notable. Like Martin Benson, who plays Mr. Dorkin, the circus owner. He was in a lot of different things, but from what several people mentioned, that probably his most high-profile appearance was he was Mr. Solo in Goldfinger, and he gets killed by Oddjob.
Oh, wow.
So there you go on that. Mr. Sylvester was in a bunch of things, and he's notable for a couple of things. Probably his most high-profile appearance, aside from this, arguably, I guess, was he was in 2001: A Space Odyssey. But the other thing that he's well known for, because ironically, art imitates life, him and his actress wife became animal welfare activists. And he appeared as I think his name was Adamson, as a real life animal rights activist in the movie Born Free. And what does he do? At one point in this movie, he gets drunk and tries to free Gorgo.
Wait, what was the Born Free? Was that the one with the cheetah?
No,
Yeah.
I think it was no. It was set in was it cheetah? It was set in Africa. I haven't seen it.
It's
Yeah,
been a
that sounds
long time, but I
familiar.
feel like I've seen that.
I think I've seen it too.
Sorry, I'm not trying to.
No, it's
derail
fine. It's fine.
conversation.
I just think
more
it's
like, wait a minute. I think I know that one.
Yeah, I was just saying. I think it is really interesting that this is a thing, and we, like I said, it's art kind of life imitates art a little bit later. So I am going to double check just to make sure, because I'm pretty sure that's him, because Sam is definitely the more sensitive of our two protagonists.
Sensitive.
He's a sensitive soul. Because like I said, he tries to free Gorgo. Yeah, let me see. Oh no, excuse me, it was Bill Travers. I was wrong. It was Bill Travers.
Oh, okay. So scratch that.
Yeah,
Art
scratch
does not
that.
imitate life. It's over.
Yeah, I guess. But Joe is the one who wants to sell Gorgo and make some money. So
Well, now your whole life imitates art has just flopped on
I
its
know.
Goodness
whatever.
gracious.
Unless I did get it wrong. You know what? I'm going to fact check myself right now before Jimmy does it. I'm just going to make sure. I am going to make sure. Okay, yeah, Mr. Sylvester was in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Yes, that is what. Yeah, he did. He was also in You Only Live Twice, but he only had a bit part. And then he did a bunch of kind of B grade movies, at least in the 60s. But yeah, so yeah, I was a little off there.
I'm sorry, with the Born Free, I'm a little caught up on it. I remember that song. Apparently, it is about.
By
Apparently,
Andy.
it was about lions. You're correct.
Andy Williams.
Born Free.
Yeah. So anyway, here's the thing. Is this why I'm wondering, Bex, if this is why you don't like them? Because these guys are, for all intents and purposes, at least according to Mr. Bissett and the commentary, they're pirates.
Oh, it's not that I didn't like them because they were pirates. I didn't. I mean, just
their characters didn't really
they
develop
didn't
at all.
really
so
make
it's hard to make a moral judgment on them.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the argument is that they're kind of scallywag characters. They're treasure hunting, trying to steal something. Then they
Right.
sell Gorgo just because they want to make money. Although Sam is like, I don't know if this is a good idea, because he's trying to be the sensitive soul here, and he feels he feels guilty for it later.
Yeah.
And again, that right there would have been a neat character arc to really lean into, and we kind of got a glimpse of that when he tried to open the cage to let Gorgo out in his drunken stupor.
Right.
But then they didn't really go anywhere with it, it was just
but Sam, I felt like had some redeeming qualities because of the fact I thought he was a more interesting character out of the two of them because of the fact that there was that little bit of conflict.
Yes.
Like, hey, this is a problem. We need to fix it. But then during the war scenes, he's the one who made sure that Sean was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kept making sure Sean was safe, and so there was a connection there. It just wasn't developed well.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it
I'm
really
gonna
could have been-
my fan theory, and I'd have to to do some research to find out
Read the
about
novel?
this. Yeah, read or whatever. I think Sam ended up adopting Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
That would not have been a problem
Yeah.
mentally.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Sam's his new dad, as far as I care.
Yep.
You know?
Mhm.
Yep. I
And
agree.
Joe isn't terrible, but he's definitely the more pragmatic of the two because he's just like,
Mhm.
oh, we just found the greatest scientific find ever. We're going to sell it to a circus to get money. Like, it's so funny. The Irish scientists feel gypped. They're like, what? This is. You realize the scientific significance of this, and you sold it to a circus. And then
Yeah.
Mr. Dorkin's
And
like, we'll give you full access. You can still study it, whatever. We're just going to make money off of it. I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever.
And again, I think that would have been an interesting rounding out of the character to see Sam, making sure that the boy's safe and kind of living out that conflict and coming to a resolution. And then to see the greedy, either the circus guy or whatever his name is. I can't think of
Dorkin.
his name. Yeah, Dorkin or even the ship captain.
Joe.
Because we saw Joe, thank you. Because we saw Mr. McCartan kind of get his comeuppance, right? He.
I'm just
Except I
gonna
don't know.
throw
I
this
don't.
out
Except
there.
I don't know if it was deserved with Mr. McCartan. That's the weird thing. But someone actually observed as much destruction as that was added to this movie.
Uh-huh.
Gorgo doesn't kill any of the quote unquote villainous characters in this. Mr. Dorkin survives the movie. But
Right.
then,
Right.
but they're
Gorgo
all of
doesn't
but they're all of
deliberately-
these random Londoners who end up getting killed.
Yeah.
Gorgo
yeah.
doesn't deliberately destroy anything or
Mhm.
anybody.
Yeah.
He's curious.
She.
That's the
Well,
feeling
no,
I got.
Gorgo. I think of Ogre.
Yeah,
excuse
Gorgo.
me.
Yeah, Ogre does do some deliberate damage. Definitely of the island. There's a revenge there, and then of the ships when those ships
Yes.
are in the middle, she
Mhm.
takes them down with a vent.
Mhm.
They're not even doing anything
Well,
necessarily yet.
well, I think it depends on which scene you're talking about. When it's the battleships, they're attacking her.
Yeah, but at first she surfaces and they're but she takes them down without prejudice, or with prejudice, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well, again, I'm going to save that for talking about the special effects because the battleship sequence, I'm like, this is -1. Yamazaki saw this, but
Well, I'm sure they did.
I kind of wondered a bit about that. With Ogre, I mentioned before, it does show her determination. And
Yeah.
you could potentially argue, other than maybe the Nara Island scene, you could potentially argue if nobody had attacked her, she probably wouldn't have, sunk those battleships and all of that.
Sunk my battleship.
You sunk my battleship. She probably wouldn't have sunk them anything. They attacked first. And then when you get to London, all she's doing is beelining to her child. She just doesn't care what's in front of her.
Except for one bit that I thought was kind of hilarious. One bit I thought was gratuitous of her rampage through London from the Thames. It was the beeline and the total destruction of Big Ben.
Of Big Ben.
But dude, you didn't have to. You
In her
iconic landmarks.
Well, I mean, she got it, and Conga didn't. Conga just hung out in front of it, but whatever. In her defense, I think she was kind of agitated at that point because she'd already dealt with military interference.
But I'm just saying. She's
probably
okay,
just
let me
sitting there.
march
So
up
she's
to this
probably just.
building.
I'm just saying she's probably marching through. She's like, I want my baby back, and you're shooting at me. You're
Probably.
taking. I am angry right now. I don't. And then she just
And I would
hits.
forgive Ogre for this if, they had paraded Gorgo by Big Ben when they brought him into London, but they didn't.
Mm.
Also,
No, it's
she did make London Bridge fall down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that kind of makes sense from her passing under the Thames. What didn't make sense, so she took out the two massive iconic landmarks, I guess.
Right.
I forgot about the bridge. because Big Ben was just like, that's superfluous. I get it
But
from
no.
a kaiju film.
Yeah.
You want to see that kind of destruction. I totally get it.
Yeah. But what I was going to get
gratuitous.
at is I wonder if this accidentally, because a lot of this was added by producer mandate. I wonder if this accidentally plays into a quotation. I think Ishiro Honda made this statement well after 1961 to boot, where he said that the tragedy, I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but I've mentioned this several times on the podcast. Ishiro Honda, director of many Godzilla movies, among other things, said the tragedy of kaiju is that they are born too big, too strong, and they don't fit into the world.
Right.
And that's why, they just, a lot of times they're just trying to make their way through a city. Right. And unfortunately, because of all of those factors, they're knocking stuff over and
casualties occur.
Casualties occur. They're inflicting damage when they don't always mean to. And I wonder if something similar happens in Mothra. You might remember this, Bex. Mothra just makes a beeline. She's not when she's a caterpillar, she is not intending to cause damage, but she's like, I want my girls back.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just beelining to wherever they are, and stuff is in her way.
Right.
And so I wonder if you can make a similar argument here, other than the fact that Gorgo is obviously more irritable than Mothra.
No, and I think that perhaps you could argue that if there was a show of sentience about Ogra, it was her going for that landmark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He knows this is going to put the hurt on them, but that was an unnecessary destructive act.
Well, it could also play into the whole sea spirit thing, because like I said, when she emerges at Nara Island, there's a storm going on, and and the storm seems to almost be affected by her presence. It's probably a coincidence, because the movie spends more time looking at things scientifically, and
right.
The sea spirit thing is kind of brought up as a potential supernatural connection. But
I feel like that's where Sean could have interpreted a little bit more for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there definitely is a sense that Nara Island is purely motivated by revenge.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt that what she did there was she came to see if her son was there. And when he's not, she's like, oh, what? And she doesn't bother to question anybody. She just takes them all down.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
They do scientifically explain how Ogra knows where her son is.
Right.
Which is that, because because they say like, oh, you have to keep his skin wet because he's an amphibious reptile. So you have to keep his skin wet so he, basically he doesn't shrivel up and die. But then they're like, well, what's all that down in the water? It's phosphorus. So the idea is that all that water that they keep spraying on him left this phosphorus trail that she can follow.
Yeah.
So they're still trying to throw science into this to explain it.
Sure.
But the sea spirit thing always kind of hangs in the back of my head when I watch this movie. It's like I could still see it potentially.
Yeah, I feel like if this was done today, if they decided let's actually remake it, which there's rumblings of them doing this, I feel like they might be able to explore some of that a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The whole sea spirit and
kind of fill it in a little bit more. Yeah.
I'd like to. In fact, if it was being made today, it would start with a Vikings.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
with the Vikings fighting Gorgo in ancient time.
Like Ragnar at the helm, shaved head on the side, tattooed.
Well, funny enough, I try to remember which of the. I think it's Gorgo Legacy, the Titanic Creations comic. I haven't read it yet, but for what I have read, it's actually a bit of a prequel to the movie. It actually expands on things. Apparently, the father creature is in that comic.
Nice.
Now, I'm assuming that dad died, which is why he's not in the movie, but
that or he's.
So I guess that means Ogra's a single mom. Oh my gosh, Ogra's a single mom.
Well, that's why I was asking about Sean,
because I thought that might be a parallel between him and Gorgo. I saw that as a parallel to begin with, but if it was only his father that died, like I said, that's all I picked up on him.
Well, at the time, he probably thought, if he knew, quote unquote, Gorgo was a quote unquote child, at least that for him, he doesn't know that there are parent creatures, and he's like, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you."
Yeah, he definitely had a connection with Gorgo.
Which, like I said, kind of gets dropped after the first half, and then he's just I'm sitting in the crowd, and I feel sorry for him.
He's the one who gives the recommendation to set him free, even in the circus.
Yeah.
So it's still his theme. But
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, you mentioned the storm and how the storm responds to Ogra, and I'll tell you the real reason why they had the storm there. It's because they had to obscure the awfulness of that suit.
Oh, okay. I guess we're gonna get into the special effects now. We'll get full tilt. All right. Strap in. Yes, this is when the hot takes really happen. So somebody doesn't like this suit.
No, it's not that I don't like this. I like the design of the creature. Okay, I thought the creature design was neat. I like the design. I like the dinosaur type.
How the jaw worked. It was so well. It was natural.
Yeah, I will say, I looked into this, and it's actually interesting. This is a very Japanese thing. I do feel like, in some ways. Oh, by the way, the whole story thing with like the characters are just doing things. If you look at Eugene Laurier's other, I haven't seen Colossus of New York, but the other kaiju movies he does are very plot driven, and the characters are there at the service of the plot. He even tries to intentionally, especially in Giant Behemoth, he tries to avoid things like romance because he just wasn't interested in that. There's a romantic subplot in Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, but it was kind of put in there because the studio wanted it. But what I was trying to get at was that in Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, he had Ray Harryhausen doing stop motion special effects. Mm-hmm. Giant Behemoth, he had Willis O'Brien, who did the stop motion for King Kong and was Ray Harryhausen's teacher. And there was one other guy whose name escapes me right now. Put it in your blog, Jimmy, as a reminder for Giant Behemoth. And now he's doing Suitmation. So he's worked with two masters of stop motion, and now he's doing the Suitmation thing in this one and using miniatures. So it's a very Japanese style special effects here.
Sure. And I get that. And so I don't have any problems with the creature design. I like the creature design. It's just there was some rough edges around that suit, and I could see them having to use certain filming techniques to obscure some of the obvious flaws in the suit. So that's my comment on it.
Well, I know that's a frequent complaint. It's like, that's why they have it at night and they put in rains because they hide the special effects. Yeah, maybe that's the practical reason why, but I'm going to be honest with you. The rain and the darkness really make it moody.
For sure. Yeah.
It is very moody.
There's a reason Dracula comes out at night and the werewolf comes out at night and all of the above.
Yeah.
But
now,
did you at least note were you able to distinguish between, other than just the size, distinguish between the Gorgo puppet and the Ogra puppet?
They were the same. They used the same suits.
Well, I wanted to see if Bex could distinguish before.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
That's all good.
I ruined it. What would you have said?
It was the exact same suit.
Would you have noticed, Bex? Did you notice?
It was no, there was no distinction.
It was all it was the same suits, and the way that they told the difference was the set.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, for sure.
That was this. It was the set, which I actually thought was pretty clever. And I will say, it's funny that you bring that up, Bex, because, like I said, some of the sources I looked at actually said that this was better than all of the Japanese stuff. I'm like,
okay.
What? But they were, some of it was also coming from, I think it was Warren who wrote, was it Keep Watching This, Guys? I think that's what it was. But he just didn't like suitmation, so he said like, yeah, this is the best usage of a terrible technique. I'm like, really? It's really, sir? Your prejudice, your bias is showing, sir. Yeah. But yeah, so I have a hard time calling it better, but I have to say I think as someone who partakes of Japanese kaiju cinema, it's very impressive. It does feel very Japanese at points, which might have been why there was Japanese interest in it.
There was some good parts, when Gorgo is tied up, he's in the net, he's on the boat, he's getting transported. Those scenes were really good because you kind of got a sense of it seemed like a real creature then, if that makes sense. So I thought they really, because they're having to put people next to this giant, creature. And so I thought those specific scenes were really good in as far as the creature design and giving it a feeling of a real creature.
Right. And from what I read, I know they built several suits. The whole origin of the suit is, the suits, because I think they had multiple ones, is actually kind of interesting. Apparently there was a gentleman named Tom Sherman who coined the phrase "man in a suitosaurus." Yeah, actually, Jimmy, I like that one. Although I'm afraid that there might be a real man in a suitosaurus someplace. Yeah. So anyway, they had several suits for both of them. The most I will compliment them for, and what I find interesting about this is that some complain that the suits in this are not that expressive. I'm like, what are you talking about? These suits are incredibly expressive because there's hydraulics in them that are controlled by the suit actors that do things like move the eyes and the mouth and the ears. Yeah. The ears, the little fin ears, they wiggle.
Yeah.
That's not an accident. It's they're designed to wiggle, and it moves the tail. So when I'm looking at this, like, man, the hydraulics in that thing, like the eyes are always moving, the mouth is moving a lot. I think it's very expressive. Because even some of the Japanese stuff at this time, they tend to have less expressive suits here. At this point, there were only 2 Godzilla movies, and the mouth would move sometimes, and and the eyes could at least open a little bit, and all of that, but it wasn't like what we're seeing here. The eyes glow red, which is very striking. I have to say.
Yeah, that was definitely cool.
Yeah. So for me personally, I really liked it. What's interesting though is that they had 4 suit actors for this movie.
Oh, wow.
And since I always say suit actors need more love, I am going to mention them. Here's the weird thing though. Only one is apparently confirmed, and that's a gentleman named Mick Dillon. These are all stuntmen. And then the other ones they think, guess they're just not sure, they think were David Wilding, Peter Brace, and Peter Perkins. Although one source I looked at said that one of the suit actors was a puppet animator named Bob Burra. Take that for what you will. But Lourie supposedly designed Gorgo the creature, and he wanted a Russian special effects expert in America named Nikolai Wilkie to build the suit, but then the King brothers hired their own engineers and made it instead.
Of course they did.
So, yeah, because apparently the King brothers were just kind of overstepping Lourie a lot making this movie. But yeah.
Shared vision.
Yeah. But then again, like I said, then you have the miniature sets in this, which also look very Japanese. And I'm going to tell you right now, of the 3 European kaiju movies released the same year, within months of each other, I might add, out of the 3, I'm going to argue this one has the best special effects. Okay. Reptilicus
is rough. Reptilicus is rough.
Reptilicus looks like a papier-mâché dragon.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the buildings in it are literally made of paper.
Nice.
It's not. It's just not. No bueno.
Well, they burn easily.
Yeah. No bueno. And then the effects in Konga's only a kaiju for a kaiju size for about 10 minutes. And what you see of that is fine. Otherwise, it's mostly a guy in a gorilla suit running around strangling people, because that's what you do in these movies. And some prop giant plants that we'll have in a few scenes. The giant stuff is fine. The superimposition is actually pretty good. Superimposition might be the one thing Konga has over this movie, because the matte shots in this, some of them are pretty good, some of them are not, because they had, I think, 80 blue screen shots in this, and sometimes it is very obvious.
Yeah.
Very obvious. I think the most glaring one was as cool a sequence as it was the flamethrower sequence, because those flames are not cooperating with the blue screen very well. They're not cooperating very well at all. But there's a lot of different special effects techniques used in this. I was impressed with the miniatures, though. I think next to the suit, the miniatures were probably the best thing in this. Actually, they might be the best thing in terms of the effects. Might be the best thing in this. We can argue over the suit if you want, but I think the miniatures are great. What'd you guys think?
I don't really recall any thoughts on the miniatures. At that point, it was kind of just, like I said,
stuff was happening. It was kind of.
It was very disconnected. That was when I felt disconnected to the movie. Was during the rampaging monster.
Which is funny because that's usually what I'm going for when I go for kaiju.
Yeah.
I want to see the destruction. In this case, I just wanted to see her get her kid and go home.
At that point, I was just like, all right, let's just get the baby and let's.
And I was angry at. I actually did have a flare of anger at the let's erect an electrical wall around the baby. Like, dude, what were you guys thinking? Sorry. I was special effects, but here I am back to the plot.
At that point, I was like, "Oh man, what are they?
You guys are idiots."
Well, if you're talking about putting it around Gorgo when he's at the circus, I actually thought to myself that actually makes sense, because I'm like, why can't this goober just climb out?
Well, I'm saying from the standpoint of they reinforced all the electrical around him when Mama was coming to get him. Like,
right.
It's like at that point you're like, you know what? Just let the kid go.
That you're fighting. That was my thing. Is I couldn't understand their motivation at that point to protect Gorgo from the mom.
Right.
Unless they really thought they could electrocute Mom. That's all I'm thinking.
But think about that. The whole thing, all of those people that died in London because the government wanted to protect the circus. What?
Well, and also apparently kind of just stick it to the Irish a bit too, because they call it an Irish hoax, and they seem to be annoyed that the Irish were like, "Hey, that monster's from our territory. Let us have it." They're like, "No, you can't have it."
But if that's the case, they
Toku
really
Topic
needed to play up that angle a little bit, which they probably could have done, because that's the development. There had been times before, and this is the lead up and the development to the time of troubles. Come on. We're in that time frame.
Save it for the Toku Topic, sir, because we will get into that.
But man,
yeah.
Well, let's do it.
But the other effects we had is we had some life-size props that we had in this, like the claw hand, that comes down and smashes the boat at the beginning.
Oh yeah, that was
when 14 minutes.
I had no problem with that portion of the rampage.
Right.
It was I don't understand what is happening here in London. That's not making sense to me.
Right. And that's the other thing. Like we mentioned the grisly deaths in this, which is just so weird. Like we have some very disturbing, like people jumping out of buildings in desperation.
Jumping out of the windows and whatnot. Yeah. Like, wow, this is like 9/11 level.
Yes,
stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's like, did you have to go that far? Did the King brothers really need this much?
In a sense, that actually made the rampage more human than some of the rampages I've seen before, which is just screaming people trying to get out of the way of cars being thrown at them and buildings, but it's like a split screen almost, like, oh, look at a bunch of screaming people, oh, now we're back to the monster, oh, now we're back to the screaming people. Well, here it was the screaming people, but they were being trampled to death. Like there was a scene of one guy getting trampled, the preacher of all things. That was weird.
Yeah. And Lourie did this with his 2 previous kaiju movies. There's a famous scene in Beast from 20,000 Fathoms where the Rhedosaurus eats a cop who has balls of steel, I have to say, but he's also an idiot because he's like, I'm gonna shoot it with my pistol, and then the monster's like,
well, you do what you got to do,
And then there were some pretty grisly deaths in the giant behemoth, but the giant behemoth has like weird radiation attack powers, and it's just needlessly angry, I have to say. Well, not needless. I think you can infer that the creature is angry because apparently it is slowly dying, according to the scientists in that movie. So it's just lashing out at everything, I guess. But
as you do.
Yeah, as you do. Yeah.
I mean, that's like a statement on human life because we're all gonna die. So.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sunshine.
Is that the source of people's anger and angst? Like,
what was that, Jimmy? Oh yeah, I guess you died once, and you're perfectly well adjusted. Maybe, I guess. I don't know. I don't really want to have an existential crisis right now.
But you watch Gorgo anyways.
Yeah, we watch Gorgo anyways. All right, so. Anyway, so, we have all this stuff, and there was a technique, and this is interesting. They used a technique in this. I do want to highlight this, that was called auto motion, which is kind of interesting. It was I think it was a matting technique. Yeah. Oh, it was a split screen technique that had it was part of the green screening shots, and it's only used occasionally. And this was originally done because the director of the special effects on this was a guy named Tom Howard, who was very well known for doing special effects with MGM. Because that was the other thing that was interesting about this. This is MGM releasing this movie.
Yeah.
Which is because MGM, in the golden age of Hollywood was a prestigious studio, and they're less prestigious now, but now here they are releasing monster movies. But this guy did a lot of special effects work. But the auto motion, which was originally used in a movie, I think a couple years before this, called Tom Thumb.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't used to make things giant. It was used to make things smaller.
Things small.
Because it's Tom Thumb, I think that's a fairy tale, right? That's a fairy tale, or is it? No, it's not a nursery rhyme. I think it's a Mother Goose thing. Yeah.
They all lump in together.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that raises a question: are we all kaijus to Tom Thumb?
That argument can be made. I know of a podcast that was going chronologically through the history of giant monster movies, and they included ones where the protagonists were small, but all the other people or other things, even though they were technically normal size, they looked gigantic, and they considered those giant monster or kaiju.
Fair enough.
You could make that argument.
Yeah, it'd be like Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah, it's all based on perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. So
it's like Obi-Wan. It's like Obi-Wan from a certain point of view.
Wait, was Obi-Wan a kaiju?
No, he talked about from a certain point of view. So this normal sized spider is a kaiju from a certain point of view. If you are smart.
Golly, can you imagine a normal sized spider actually being a kaiju to you?
I've seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I know.
It's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we've covered a lot of stuff, and as usual, I have way more notes than I ever need. So we should probably get into the Toku topic. Although I will, there's 2 things I do want to mention. One is a quick question. Who do you think? Because I saw arguments for different characters. Who do you think is the true, we'll say, Carl Denham of this movie? Thinking about Carl Denham is the movie director from King Kong, who tried to exploit Kong. Who's the Carl Denham in this movie?
Oh, I think Joe.
Joe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, I lean toward Mr. Dorkin.
Well,
Joe's the one Joe's the one who sells Gorgo, but Mr. Dorkin's the one who does the exploitation.
Right, but Joe is the one who's trying to make the most money out of his deal as well.
Dorkin thought he was going to make a ton of money off of this, and he's the one who's blocking the Irish scientists and, kind of blocking them. And
True, but Joe was there right along with him. Right. Every time Dorkin was talking, Joe was there.
Joe began by being a salvage operator, which, like you said, it could be likened to a pirate. I don't think it is a piracy per se. They stumbled upon Viking ruins, which should have been, again, going back to the Irish thing, it should have been something that the Irish government it should have been in the provenance of the Irish people. We're not actually salvaging at that point. Now we're actually looking at archaeological finds that we're trying to take away from the rightful owners, if you will, from a heritage site. He then steals from the harbor master, who apparently has been doing some of the same things, although Sean said it was archaeology. Sean actually used that term, archaeological stuff, or archaeology stuff. And then he captures the critter and loads him up on the ship and takes him. I'm going with Joe more than Dorkin.
Okay.
Dorkin is an opportunist. Yeah. But he's not a go-getter. He's not like, I'm going to go out there and find stuff and bring it to my circus.
He just offers people money, and people know that they can sell the stuff to him.
Yeah. So can we agree that perhaps the Carl Denham, we'll say, archetype is split between the two characters?
Yeah, I could get with that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think positionally, Dorkin is closer to Denham, but narratively it might be closer to Joe.
And I would give you Dorkin 100% if Joe had left. He did not leave.
He was there the whole
his
time.
Interest in the circus, even though he's a shipmaster. Why did he not leave? That's because he had a controlling interest in what happened to Gorgo.
Yeah.
Which means that he's still in on the exploitation.
Yep.
Now, the last thing I'll mention, because we haven't really talked a whole lot about it, but the semi-omniscient radio reporter, who's always there to provide us exposition.
And just toward the end, kind of, like, what the heck?
Mostly in the second half, especially during the destruction scene. Gotta admit, the guy's got guts.
He was there on the scene.
He was on the scene, keeping his cool, while blue-screened buildings are collapsing behind him. And he doesn't even flinch. He's like, I'm here to report the news, dang it.
He's the guy who's like got his finger to his ear. That's right, Kate. Yes, there is a giant monster behind me, and it is destroying. Yep.
All the things. So the one thing I want to bring up, because I do think, because this is the thematic note that the movie wants to end, that it ends on. I mean, the last shot is Sean being like, "Oh, they're going back. I'm so happy now.
Mm-hmm.
I might be a psychopath, but I'm so happy they're going away now. Everybody is dead and London is ruined, but I'm so happy now." Because the original Kenny was definitely a psychopath. Watch the original camera. He's a psychopath. Yes, Jimmy, I know. You can confirm he still is a psychopath. Because all the Kennys apparently get together. The Gamera Kennys all get together sometimes. But
oh, wow.
Yeah. So we have our reporter who tries to sum up the entire movie by saying that now mother and child are reunited and they are returning to the sea, having shown mankind that they are not the lords of creation.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another, I mentioned that the toppling the ship, I should mention, that's reminded me a lot of -1. There's a scene in -1 that's very much like that with Godzilla capsizing a battleship. So we get, and actually, I think it's one of the best special effects sequences. So it's like, maybe Lourie had to add that when he didn't want to, but I think it's quite impressive. And then this sentiment that we end on feels very MonsterVerse to me, because that's a big thing. If you watch Godzilla 2014, that is a big thing in the MonsterVerse. Dr. Serizawa in that famously and meme-tastically said that the arrogance of man is assuming that that we are in control, I'm going to paraphrase, that we are in control of nature and not the other way around, let them fight. And it's an interesting sentiment to look at, especially in light of the movie, because, and I was especially thinking about having both of you on, because you guys are on Redeemed Otaku, and we're all Christians here, except for Jimmy, because he's a weirdo. But yeah, where you have this reporter saying, reminding mankind they're not the lords of creation, when if you wanted to get theological about it, what is it, the Genesis mandate or something that basically spells out, oh yeah, you are in charge, you are the stewards of creation. Dominion. Yeah,
you have dominion. To take dominion.
But then we have stuff like this where mankind is humbled by nature. What do you make of that?
Yeah. Well, God is the God of creation, and God is the God of nature. And if we were to posit that kaiju exist, and I for one do believe that there are probably many unknowns that we simply can't, and unexplainables. We know as Christians that God is the ultimate one in charge of all these things. He's the creator. And we also know that God gave man a creation mandate to be fruitful, multiply, replenish, fill the earth, have dominion. And we also know that man, when man fell, he failed in his creation mandate in many ways. When man sinned and passed that sin on to his offspring, he failed, and we demonstrate that failing every day of our lives. We see it all the time. I mentioned a couple times in jest, and probably not a great thing to joke about, that we're all going to die, right? But that's true. We are all going to die. And yeah, that's not having dominion, is it? Over death, over life. We don't have control over that. But there was one who I'm a close personal friend with, who came into this world. He was God. He manifested in the flesh. He was born of a virgin, God incarnate, who died. God died in human flesh to take our unrighteousness upon himself and to give us his righteousness. He is the Redeemer, not only of us, but of the entire creation. So one day, all knees, including that of King Kong and Godzilla and of Gorgo, will bow and confess. Everything will, before their creator, they will bow. So yes, Gorgo is more powerful than man, and man is not the Lord of Gorgo or Ogra or whoever they were referring to. But Jesus is. Jesus is the Lord of the kaiju. He's the great kaiju.
Wow.
Prove me wrong.
I wish I could put that in the title of this episode. Just, I may have to meme it. I'm at least gonna meme it. Jesus is the Lord of the kaiju. I just put it as like out of context. Spoiler for the next MIFV episode.
My entire viewpoint of our entertainment is that God is a creator, and he put within us a creative spark, and we create. Humankind create, and by creating we are imaging our creator. If that's the case, and God is Lord of all creation, then he is Lord of all of our creation as well. So he is the God of kaiju. He is the Lord of the kaiju. He is the Lord of anime. He is the Lord of the Marvel universe and the DC universe. There is none higher. He's the highest of all of those things.
Well,
I've got nothing. No notes.
No comment.
Bex, anything?
How do you say it? How do you say it any better than that? So I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And with that, let's get into the Toku topic, and hopefully it won't take me 10 years to get through it, because there was a lot I could have gotten into. Sometimes I have to work really hard to streamline the Toku topic notes. This was kind of one of those again. So we'll see how this goes. But in the meantime, here's a podcast ad. To be continued.